Hello, everybody, and welcome to the brand new FPHL YouTube page. For the first time in league history, we are broadcasting the expansion draft, and what a draft it's going to be. I'm Brady Beaton. Next to me is the 2026 Broadcaster of the Year, Will Wiggleman. Will, this is a big day for the Fed, and I'm excited to be a part of it.
We will have 8 rounds, 5 teams picking, so 40 total players will find new teams following this draft. I'm so excited to bring it live for the very first time. You know, a big push that the FPHL starting this summer is trying to do is to bring more to the fans, bring more of this content, bring more transparency, and it starts tonight, and we're very excited. We're happy to have all the fans on here that are tuning in. I know we have a watch party going on in Fresno, so we want to give a big shout out to the watch party going on in Fresno. We're excited to have you guys and all the rest of the expansion teams to find out their new players.
Absolutely, and for those fans maybe unfamiliar, the 5 new teams coming into the league: the Minnesota Northern Lights, the Mid-South Monarchs, Oceanside Pro Hockey, Stockton Pro Hockey, and the Fresno Falcons will all get their first 8 players, get the core of the team of what they're going to be. And as Will mentioned, this is step 1 of a long-term vision that the leadership atop of the Federal Prospects Hockey League is trying to use to elevate this league, to bring this league to where it needs to be. And this one is a big first step, being very transparent with the expansion draft. A lot of work was done at the league meetings to address some of the core issues, and it's not going to be seen overnight, a lot of these, but there is a long-term vision in place for this league. And this is a small step, number 1, but we're excited to be here for it.
And a lot more of that is the processes in place that they're putting in for scheduling, for divisional alignment, and all that stuff that we'll talk a little bit more about that towards the end of the show. Now, we have a lot more going on in the show besides the expansion draft. I'm very excited that we will have Johnny Ruiz on, so fans of the FPHL know everything that happened with Johnny Ruiz. He suffered a stroke mid-season, the Hat-Tricks captain. We'll get an update straight from him later on in the show, so stick around for that. And then, once the draft is over, we will hear from a representative from all 5 teams who picked. But before we get to the expansion draft, one team has already gotten some new players this offseason.
And in the spirit of transparency, I'm sure a lot of people out there know, but for those who don't, myself, Brady Beaton, will be the voice of the Motor City Rockers. Will, you have been with Port Huron for several years, so yes, we may know a little bit more about some of these teams that we see more often, but this is a league-wide event. This is an event here to put the league first. But as you mentioned, the Motor City Rockers are trying to become the first team and are going to become the first team to resurrect, to come back from dormancy status. And part of this was that when the Rockers went dormant a year ago, an agreement was put in that there would be a dispersal draft with a caveat that if and when the Rockers came back, the team could recall some of the rights, and 7 players have been recalled back to Motor City.
So now those players, for those who want to know, had to be on the roster of the Motor City Rockers at the end of the 2024-25 season. So no Avery Smith or Trevor Babin, no guys who got traded at that trade deadline. So the players who were still on the roster and played on other teams in the FPHL this season had the option to go back to the Motor City Rockers when they came back, and Nick Field got himself 7 players.
Yes, he did. We'll talk to him. We have Nick ready. You know he's coming in live. We're working on getting him. So Nick will be joining us, the general manager of the Rockers. And, you know, it's a tricky situation. Nick, is ready. So let's welcome on the GM of the Rockers, Nick Field. So it's great to have him on and be able to talk about everything that happened and bringing this team back. So, Nick, if we got you on your end, are you ready to go and talk about some Rockers hockey before we get the expansion draft started?
Absolutely, guys. Nice seeing you, and thanks for having me on.
So, Nick, we really appreciate this. Let's start with the first question, just being about how you got the Rockers back here and what that process has looked like over the last 12 months.
Yeah, so you know, I didn't get the Rockers back. We never really went away. We just took the season off to facilitate a relocation to a different venue. And behind the scenes throughout the year, we were in talks with multiple venues, and we finally got to the point where we were able to get something done down in Wyandotte. And I don't think we could be happier with the relationship we have with the city and the community to get going here. And looking forward to the season.
Well, Nick, I mean, you got 7 great players back here. Can you talk a little bit about the process of getting those guys back and why these were guys that you prioritized making sure were part of your roster ahead of this season?
Yeah, I mean, all the guys, when we were here the first 2 seasons, we had built a pretty good team within the league. We made it to the Eastern Conference or the Empire Conference Finals the second year. All of the guys that you've seen, that are back with, with Motor City, with the rights that we have to them. These are all guys that have been in the league for a few years, some more than others, but they're all guys that are seasoned and are contributing players, and we're looking forward to see where it goes.
So, I mean, being one of the only teams to ever, come back from dormancy status, I mean, I've been with you through some of this, Nick, but talk about the part about, being a new team because we're being reintroduced, but it's also got some history behind it with the Rockers, the 3 seasons that they have been in the Fed.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a unique dynamic. I don't know that it's been done before, specifically in this league or any other league, but I think we have a good foundation in place. Everybody within the metro area is familiar with the Rocker name and the Rocker brand. We have a fan base that was established a little outside the of where we're at now. But the good news is the community that we're a part of now is fully embraced us, both from the city and the members of the city, to the whole community in general. Lots of inquiries, lots of excitement about the Rockers coming, and a lot of buzz in town. So we're looking real forward to getting it going. I've had a lot of excitement and a lot of interest from players already from other leagues inquiring. And to be honest with you, I don't think there's a better place to play in the North as far as the city goes. So much to offer. Being outside of Detroit by 20 minutes, there's so much to offer for a player outside of hockey in our market, and I'm looking forward to getting some players on the roster and getting rolling.
Well, I do have to ask you about the rivalry of the Port Huron Prowlers. How excited are you to get the Battle of I-95 going again?
Yeah, I mean, the Battle of 94 is, for those of you outside of the market here in Michigan, the Battle of 94 is a very prestigious thing for both teams, I believe. We came in as an expansion team our first year, and we took the series win over Port Huron as far as that goes. We took it the second year as well. I know they have a lot of pride over there, and they were happy to get the better of us in that third year. But I can tell you right now, when we get the team and the roster going, one of the first things we're going to talk about is that rivalry and how important it is to us to get that trophy back and keep it.
So, even in the 1 year the Rockers have been off, you've obviously still been following the league very closely. What has it been like to re-enter the league with the growth it's had, even over the last 18 months?
So being around the league and watching from afar this year, I had nothing to do with any of the hockey, of course, for any of the teams. So it was unique just to keep tabs on things and kind of look at it from an outsider's perspective. I think the league is going in a great direction, especially with some of the teams that we're adding. That California market has potential to be a really, really quality market for players and for teams and competition. We had a team in Mid-South that's going to be run really well, as well as Baton Rouge's new ownership. So the league as a whole, I think where it's going with a new leadership direction, I think it's going to provide a lot of competition, a lot of parity throughout. So it's a tough task for any team. We're going to have 17 teams in the league this year. So, I mean, just to qualify for the playoffs is a feat in itself. So I think the league's in a great spot. The development of the league and where it's going in the markets is definitely on the right track as far as, basically being a national single A league. And I can't believe that there's going to be a lack of parity this year. And we're looking to be right in the mix there. And like I said before, there's a lot of interest right now from guys in other leagues that want to play here, and I expect us to be a contender in our division.
So, Nick, I know we'd love to keep you. We'd love to keep you a little longer, but people are very excited to get the picks ready to go. They want to know who's going on. So, as much as I would love to talk about Rocker hockey, there's 5 new teams that are ready to find out their roster. But thank you so much for joining us.
All right, guys. Appreciate it. Have a good night. Thank you.
Thanks, Nick. So, I mean, Will, I know we would want to talk about this for a while, but like we said, a lot to get to with the expansion draft. So let's go over the rules so everyone understands just exactly what this expansion draft is and the what we have, the guidelines in place for tonight.
Yeah, so we already mentioned it's going to be the 12, so teams are able to protect 12 players plus 3 of their collegiate signings. And if you're new to the FPHL, at the end of every season, teams are allowed to sign 5 extra players additional to their roster who have either played junior hockey or college hockey during that season. And for the college guys or the junior guys, they have to be graduating college seniors or overagers in juniors. Now, these protection lists have been kept private by the league. Some teams may have disclosed either certain players. We saw Binghamton announcing
Tyson
publicly,
Kirkby.
that Tyson Kirkby won't be back, which you talk about a change in eras in Binghamton. That is huge. We'll get to that when he's selected, which I think we know exactly where he's going to get selected based on.
There's some connections.
There are connections around, but most teams have decided to keep it all private. Now, each team can only lose a maximum of 4 players. But if a team lost a player to the Motor City Rockers, that counts towards their list of 4, and that's an important distinction.
Yeah, there's a few exceptions here. So the 7 players that the Rockers got back, 2 of them did come from PD with their status because this was an agreement made a year ago. That's why both Nick Gullo and Nick Miguel Diaz were able to be recalled by Motor City. The other ones, Rico Gonzalez from Watertown. So that's the one for Watertown. 2 from Columbus, Josh Colton and Mike Wynn. You also had Doug Blaisdell coming from Topeka. And the one other exception is that Corey Checo played with Topeka this year, but during the start of the offseason, that there was a trade made originally to Minnesota, so he was technically taken from Minnesota and recalled, and unfortunately for Minnesota, they don't get any compensation for that because they're not losing anyone in the expansion draft.
Now, added on to that from a Columbus standpoint, the River Dragons did make a trade earlier this season with Biloxi that resulted in them getting another player on that list. So now the Columbus River Dragons can only lose 1 player in this expansion draft. The Topeka Scarecrows and Watertown Wolves can only lose 3, and then all the other teams remaining can lose the full 4. The Athens Rock Lobsters and the Biloxi Breakers rosters will not be up for grabs. Neither will the PD Ice Cats.
Correct.
roster.
And the Athens and Biloxi will be up for grabs in the dispersal draft, which will not be televised, but will happen on Thursday of this week. So we are, wrapping up. I think we are getting ready for the first pick, getting ready for the thumbs up. We're getting the head nod. So let's see who the first member of the Minnesota Northern Lights. I told you I was going to say the North Stars. The Northern Lights from Minnesota is going to be the first pick in our expansion draft. There's a lot of good options out there, and it looks like it's going to be a guy from Minnesota himself, Brandon Reller.
Well, Brandon Reller has such a unique combination of size and speed. He has been a fantastic player for these Blue Ridge Bobcats over the last couple of years. I was surprised he didn't get more playing time in the playoffs against the Port Huron Prowlers in the first round. He played in Game 3. He looked dangerous every time he was on the ice in that Game 3 that the Prowlers did end up prevailing. So Brandon Reller, a great first pick from Minnesota. Again, a Minnesota-born guy.
Yeah, and a big frame at that. 6'4", 209, young guy, 23 years old, something that a team can build off of. And, I think this is a great transition into talk about something that you always have to consider things such as, not just who the best player is, but are they going to be willing to come play for you? Because that is something at this level is, do they want to pack up and come for some people across the country? Because Withville, Virginia to Thief River Falls, Minnesota is not a quick trip. So there might be some names out there that you think, oh, that would be a great pick. However, you're going to have to, consider, are they going to come play, getting ready to come back in. So Brandon Reller coming home to Minnesota to play for them. I think a pick that the Minnesota Northern Lights is going to love early on in this one. You see the stats up there, 14 goals, 22 assists, and a big body coming up for the Northern Lights.
And after being acquired by the Bobcats from the Athens Rock Lobsters last year, he was over a point per game guy for the Bobcats, and he was a top offensive guy for a while there. So again, a lot of good offense coming for the Minnesota Northern Lights in Brandon Reller. Now, a pick we were expecting once we started putting things together, the Mid-South Monarchs on the clock second.
Yeah, they're going to get the second pick, and the big story with them is Mac Jansen coming from Binghamton to Mid-South. So you can expect a Binghamton connection between the two, and that's one I'm expecting in full force with Mac Jansen, because when you start, you see it all the time. Usually when a guy goes, it's no different than any other league. Coordinator leaves in the NFL to go somewhere else. They're going to bring a few position coaches back with them. And with this one, Tyson Kirkby is coming down to Mid-South to start the Monarchs.
Well, the captain for the Binghamton Black Bears played there for 5 years. The all-time leader in goals, assists, and points for the Black Bears goes to Andreas Johansson's other new franchise in the Mid-South Monarchs. So he's owned the Black Bears. Now he's owning the Monarchs as well, and he'll bring a big leader down there to play for Mac Jansen, who again was Kirkby's teammate and has retired and was named the head coach of the Monarchs.
And you kind of had a feeling this is where they were going when they soft launched Kirkby being exposed in the expansion draft. I didn't think the folks at Binghamton wanted this to be the first they see of this. And there you see Tyson Kirkby in what was actually a quote unquote down season for him, and I say that with a lot with asterisks, but Tyson Kirkby's been a name that the last few years has terrorized the Fed, and a big reason why the Black Bears are back-to-back champions.
Yep, and he again won those 3 cups with him. He scored the first playoff goal in Binghamton Black Bears history. That's a guy whose number, I believe, will go up in the rafters at Visions Veterans Memorial Arena one day. But for now, he may go into Visions Veterans Memorial Arena as a visitor for the Mid-South Monarchs.
Well, we'll see if he gets a tribute video or some or a booing welcome when he comes back. But yeah, winning 3 cups, I think, is a great way to ingratiate yourself to a community. So Mid-South has their first player. We have Minnesota with their first player. It's Oceanside up next. We're going to find out who's going to go all the way to the West Coast and spend some time near San Diego.
Our first California draft pick in the 2026 expansion draft. And it looks like, who do we have on here?
So it looks like, as we get ready to announce the pick, that there's a lot of options, but it looks like they're going to go with someone out of Carolina. They're going to take another big body in Cole Crowder, who played for the Thunderbirds last year.
He played for the Thunderbirds, also played for the Biloxi Breakers last season, and Cole Crowder, another guy with a lot of size to him, and he spent some time in the SPHL as well this past season. So I think this is a nice pickup for Oceanside, but again, split between 3 teams here, Biloxi, Twin City, and Topeka during the regular season. 20 points in 31 games, 92 penalty minutes as well. And he stands at 6'5", 220 pounds. He can throw the body around.
Yeah.
But he can also put the puck in the back.
No, you want a guy with that size. Obviously, scoring's a big plus, but you get someone that kind of sets the tone. And Will, you know this as well as anyone. In this league, it's more old school hockey. It's more akin to what you saw in the 80s and 90s, where size matters a little more in the Fed than maybe it does in the Coast or the A. So being able to get a big body like Cole Crowder right off the the rip, I think is something that fans in Oceanside are going to be appreciative of, and that fans are going to be able to get behind pretty quickly.
Well, we already mentioned the watch party going on in Fresno. Hey, Fresno Falcons fans, your team is on the clock, and you're about to find out who your first player is.
Yeah, and it's always exciting to find that first guy. I'm glad they already have something put together out there. Just talking to some people involved out in California from all three sides, they're very excited to have them out there. That's why there's 3 markets going in there at once. So there's some options out there that I think would be nice for Fresno. So let's see what we have coming in for that 3rd pick. We've already had a player from Blue Ridge pick. We've already had a player from Binghamton, and now it is Austin Albrecht coming. It's Cole Crowder. Austin Albrecht. I already said Cole Crowder from Monroe coming in to Fresno, the first Falcon in league history.
Austin Albrecht is a very interesting case here. He was leading the league in points and goals for decent amounts of time this season. Ended up getting an injury about a month before the playoffs. It seemed like it was going to be kind of a week-to-week thing, and then he just never returned. I don't know any more of the details surrounding that, but he was left unprotected after, again, being the leader in points. He had 2 points a game this season for the Monroe Moccasins, one of the top offensive teams in the FPHL. So we'll see what the extent of that is. If he does get out to Fresno, that is a big-time player for the Fresno Falcons. They should be excited about that.
I was going to say, I don't think anyone in Fresno really minds when you get a guy that put up those numbers last year. That's someone that, people around Fresno are going to say, hey, did you see the guy we got? Did you see what he did for one of the league's best teams last year? He was one of the highest scorers on one of the highest scoring teams. That's someone to get a new fan base excited, a guy like Austin Albrecht. So that I'm honestly, because again, in transparency, we got to see the list beforehand. We had to prepare for this. A little surprising, Albrecht fell all the way to number 4.
It absolutely, but you know what? I think Fresno does get a steal here, and that's a guy who can be a centerpiece for your offense, a centerpiece for your team.
So the last pick of the first round is going to go to Stockton, again, the final California team, and we'll be interested to see where they go. Will, the first pick can kind of go in any direction, and this one will go to Rasmus Asp, as he has been a name that, it feels like we've said a lot in the last couple years.
Yeah, Rasmus Asp having a connection to the Delaware Thunder all the way back
there's
to the
one on the bingo
22-23
card.
season, but is a big defenseman, likes to throw the body around, 6'4", 215 pounds. He became a fan favorite down in Monroe. How about back-to-back Moccasins players picked here in the first round? But the Stockton pro hockey team starting on the back end. That's where they're starting their expansion draft, and they get the Swede here at the last pick of the first round.
And are you seeing a theme? 6'4", 216. Size, or a guy that captained 3 cups. Or a guy that had 2 points a game. There's a pretty good theme going here. And a first round, I think every team has a little something to be excited about. No, is Rasmus Asp going to be a guy that is going to lead a team in points? No, but you said start on the back end, and you hope a guy like Rasmus is one that, when you see him in person, you notice him a lot more than if you're just box score watching.
Absolutely, and I know the fans down in Monroe hurting from that one a little bit because he was absolutely a fan favorite down there, but maybe he'll become a fan favorite out in Stockton. So
one round down. Let's recap real quick. We had Brandon Reller from Blue Ridge go first overall to Minnesota. Tyson Kirkby goes from Binghamton down to South Haven, Mississippi for the Mid-South Monarchs. Cole Crowder, the big man, going out to Oceanside. Austin Albrecht from Monroe to Fresno, and Rasmus Asp, the last pick, to Stockton. What was the biggest surprise of the first round for you, Will?
I'd say the biggest surprise probably is that Austin Albrecht fell all the way down to number 4. Now, Brandon Reller, of course, maybe a little bit of a surprise there at the top, especially with the way he kind of fell out of favor a little bit for the Blue Ridge Bobcats, despite his size and his skill and his speed and
which
his
they have a lot of
score.
size in Blue Ridge.
Absolutely. So I think Minnesota had a great pick at number 1, but I do think Fresno gets the steal of that first round.
So I believe we mentioned this with the rules, but we'll mention it again. It is a straight draft order, so the order is the same for all 8 rounds, which means it's time for the second round. The first pick going to the Minnesota Northern Lights, and Minnesota is going to sure themselves up between the pipes from the Indiana Sentinels. Chris Kerr coming to Thief River Falls.
Well, Chris Kerr started this season, his rookie year, with the Blue Ridge Bobcats, then ended up getting traded to Indiana near the start of the year, and he was the workhorse for that team at the beginning of the season, did kind of end up losing that starting job, went to more of a tandem with John Werber as that season moved along, but he's a pretty solid goaltender, faced a lot of shots on net, had a .909 save percentage with a 3.34 goals against average, which, it shows just how many shots he was facing, how much rubber was coming towards the net there in Indiana. So we'll see if Chris Kerr can get things going in Minnesota and help shore them up in net.
And Indiana had a very rough start to the season. They righted the ship in a way I have not seen a lot of Fed teams that have come in and struggled right away do so midseason. They just dug themselves in too big of a hole. They were never going to make the playoffs. But those numbers for Chris Kerr, I want to even put a little asterisk, like grade those on a curve, because there were some nights he might not have had a lot of help. And to have over a 9 save percentage, under a 4 goals against, that's fairly commendable for a goalie that sometimes had to face the better part of 40 or 50 shots.
And he actually had some of the better stats as far as Indiana goaltenders go. So Chris Kerr going to get himself a fresh start in Minnesota. So that begins round number 2. And now we go back to Mid-South, and how about another Binghamton Black Bear?
Yeah, Tyson Kirkby was the first one, and the second one coming out of Binghamton. They went with a forward first, going with a defenseman next. It's Cameron Cervoni coming from Binghamton. Again, when you saw Mac Jansen get named coach, you knew there was going to be a little bit of a Black Bear migration down to Mississippi.
Absolutely. And Cam Cervoni played a solid role for those Binghamton Black Bears over the past couple of years, more of like a 6th, 7th defenseman in the lineup, but still played a decent role and was in the lineup most nights, played 43 games this season, and also appeared in 7 playoff games this year, part of 2 Commissioner's Cup championships with the Binghamton Black Bears. So, a good start on the blue line for Binghamton, but I can't help but think that there was definitely some of that Binghamton bias from Mac Jansen as he was selecting Cam Cervoni.
Well, you always bring with what you know, right? And another thing you have to consider when these drafts are, especially a guy like Mac Jansen who had been in the locker room with a lot of these guys, can they set a culture? Because you're starting from scratch. There's nothing positive, but there's also nothing negative. So if okay, you're bringing a guy who is your captain, you're bringing a guy who you played with, that's a pretty big testament to say, hey, we're not going to poison the waters early. We're going to set a solid foundation because, there has been a fairly rich history of teams coming into the league and competing immediately, not being your traditional expansion teams that you see in some leagues and having to start at the bottom and work their way up. And it's very clear Mid-South is hoping that he can bring some of that Binghamton magic to Mississippi.
Well, let's move back out to California. 3rd pick, 2nd round, another blue liner.
Yeah, and another place picking from the same tree twice in a row. Oceanside going back to the Twin City Thunderbirds for Cade Hanley to join their group out in San Diego.
Yeah, and Cade Hanley, more of a defensive guy for the Twin City Thunderbirds this season. You see on the highlight tape, he blocks a lot of shots. He gets in the shooting lanes, and he can be a guy that's kind of stable on the back end that, keeps rubber from getting through to your goaltender. You see on that last one, he blocks the shot, then he moves up ice. So he's able to find the puck and get things going on an offensive side in the transition game. But you're not going to look towards Cade Hanley for points, but you'll look for him to eat some minutes in his own zone and be able to block some shots and just get the puck out.
And I can also say this, I can respect a man with a great mustache, and that is a great mustache on Cade Hanley. Beautiful carpet on the upper lip for him. But no, sometimes you want to build boring hockey. Ask the Carolina Hurricanes. Sometimes boring gets you to where you want to go. Hey, goals are great, but if you can suffocate a team, that's something that you can really use to build on. And that's what Oceanside is trying to do with some size coming from the Atlantic Ocean now to the Pacific.
Yeah, and Cade Hanley is still a young guy. Last year was his rookie season coming out of UMass Dartmouth. So we'll see if he can make a bit of a jump as well in year number 2.
So Fresno had already taken the one of the top point getters available in this draft. So they have the offense. Let's see where Fresno is going now. It looks like they're going to be going with someone between the pipes and someone you're very familiar with, Will Wiggleman. The first pick from Port Huron, Dyson Skinner, is heading out to Fresno.
Yeah, Dyson Skinner joined the Prowlers right at the end of the season, played for a few different FPHL teams, mostly the Twin City Thunderbirds, also spent some time in the SPHL this season. He came into pro hockey with some great pedigree out of the University of Wisconsin River Falls, and he's bounced around a little bit between the SPHL, the ECHL, the FPHL, but he's been a solid goaltender everywhere he's gone. Looked really, really good in the one start he made for the Prowlers. Those are just his stats. The ones you're seeing on the screen are just with Port Huron. Did have some more stats with some other teams as well throughout the 2025-26 regular season. But Dyson Skinner is going to get an opportunity to earn that number 1 job out there.
Yeah, you're getting a guy that, in very limited action, saw a lot of success, but Port Huron loses their first goaltender in Skinner. A little bit of a bigger frame at 6'1", 190, but not the biggest goalie, but certainly some size. But the first Prowler now off the board, and that takes us to the final pick of the second round. We've been rifling through these right now, and you can already start to see what some teams are trying to do just 2 picks in.
Absolutely. And take a look at Fresno. They're like, let's get our top point scorer, and now let's get our man between the pipes. And again, Skinner's going to get every opportunity to try and earn that starting goaltending spot out there in Fresno.
So as we go to the final pick of this second round, I want to apologize to all Thunderbirds fans. We've been saying a lot of your names, and you are losing another player, this time to Stockton. It is going to be Matthew Garcia that's heading out to Cali.
And Matthew Garcia was the first player ever signed by the Athens Rock Lobsters. He got traded to Twin City earlier on this season, split the year almost evenly between the Lobsters and the Thunderbirds. Another pretty solid defensive player, and he's a popular guys that fans really like, and we'll see if the fans take to him out in Stockton.
It's not the highest PIM you'll see out there. He'll do what he needs to do. Younger guy, so a guy that still has room to grow. 71 PIM last year, so maybe not a guy that's looking for a fight, but not a guy that's going to back down from one either.
Absolutely. So Matthew Garcia out to Stockton, and now Stockton has 2 blue liners.
Yes, they do. So again, in the second round, Minnesota took Chris Kerr from Indiana. Mid-South, Cameron Cervoni, the second straight Black Bear taken. Oceanside took their second straight Thunderbird and Cade Hanley. The Prowlers lost their first player to Fresno in goalie Dyson Skinner, and Matthew Garcia, the most recent pick, to Twin City. So I guess the silver lining for Thunderbirds fans is you don't have to wait much longer. There's only one more name you can possibly lose.
Oh, yeah, it's only one more, but I want to go back to Cam Cervoni pick. I thought that was an interesting pick from Mac Jansen. Maybe he sees a lot of growth in a guy like Cam Cervoni. I do think that there were better Binghamton defensemen available, at least on the list that I was sent. So I think Mac Jansen might be looking for that development, looking for that growth from Cam Cervoni, and we'll see if he can grow into being a top 4 reliable guy this season and earning that round expansion draft pick.
All right, we have 10 picks down. We still have 30 to go. As a reminder, midway through, we are going to see our interview with Johnny Ruiz. You'll get an update on how Johnny Hockey is doing out in Danbury. After the show, we will talk to a representative from all 5 expansion teams, and then a little insight onto what may happen with the divisions and scheduling and all those things we know you're asking for out there. Trust me, we're not going to give you anything 100% definitive, but you will get an update on all those. With that said, let's go to round 3, back to Thief River Falls, Minnesota. The Minnesota Northern Lights getting ready, and it looks like they're going to be picking from Blue Ridge once again in the form of Jordan Rosenbaum.
Yes, Jordan Rosenbaum, big defenseman for the Blue Ridge Bobcats. We saw a lot of him in that playoff series for Huron, and he's a guy who also played some time in the SPHL this season, but did play for 3 different FPHL teams: Athens, Blue Ridge, and Biloxi. Can be a two-way guy. And you see him jumping up on the rush in those clips and getting in it and being part of the offense. And we'll see if he could do a little bit more of that in Minnesota and kind of get that opportunity. And maybe he lays some roots a little bit more and is able to kind of stick with that Minnesota team and build that core.
With some consistency, the Yins are going out to Minnesota. One thing maybe with Rosenbaum that they could like, very disciplined, only 4 PIM on the year in the Fed through 27 games played. So that's telling me he takes care of his stick. He knows where he's going to be, and he's not going to put you at a disadvantage. Plays it very safe. Again, so if we say someone plays boring hockey, that's not necessarily a dig on them. That just means they're stout and they're where they are when they're supposed to be there.
Well, stop me if you've heard this one before. The Mid-South Monarchs have selected a former Binghamton Black Bear.
Yeah, again, listen, we knew there was going to be a connection. We didn't know how strong that connection was going to be. It is very strong. Tyson Kirkby going to get some help up front in the form of Emerson Emery coming to Mid-South. The 3rd straight pick by Mid-South from Binghamton. Again, we thought there would be some connection, and there's, they got a guy willing to drop the gloves.
Absolutely. Emery typically would play that 10th forward role, but if there were injuries up and down that Binghamton lineup, they trusted Emery to go up and play on a line with Tyson Kirkby or play on a line with CJ Stubbs or play on a line with some of the top guys in Binghamton if there were injuries. So he does have enough skill to play up the lineup, and maybe we'll see him take a bit of a jump in his 3rd year in the FPHL.
Yeah, and again, Mid-South going the same way again with Binghamton. Now, Binghamton only can lose 1 more player. Twin City can only lose 1 more player. And of course, if you're just joining us, any player recalled by Motor City was included in the picks for tonight. So that means Columbus can only lose 1 more player because they also had a trade with Biloxi that, in terms of finalizing, protected 1 pick here. And then Topeka and Watertown have technically already had a player taken because of that. So Binghamton can only lose 1 more. Let's go back out to California. Oceanside is now on the clock. They have already been very deliberate in what they've been doing with some help back on the back end from Twin City.
Yeah, and now they go with a forward, but a guy who is a bit of a two-way forward from the Danbury Hat-Tricks. We got our first pick from
Yes,
Danbury.
you do. Zachary Demaris, I believe. Is it French enough? Was that
Demarais.
Demarais. Sorry, I'm not quite as French as I need to be. But Zachary Demarais, a guy that is a Quebec native, and you'll see some of the highlights. Him again, maybe not the flashiest stats for the guys going out to Oceanside, but a very clear and pointed attack here in the draft.
And you saw him in those highlights. He's blocking shots. He's trusted to play those penalty kill minutes, those really tough minutes that you need to block shots, eat shots, get the puck out, and get off the ice. Those are not the flashiest minutes that you're going to play, but Zach Demarais can eat those minutes, and that that will be huge, especially in the big games.
100%. And again, like I said, a very clear identity. That's the word I was looking for, being built with Oceanside. You're not going to have the flashiest picks, and there's a lot of offseason left. By no means is this going to be the only players that these expansion teams are going to get. This is just the foundational pieces, and it seems like Oceanside, they're trying to put the floor in before they buy the chandelier. They want to make sure everything below them is sturdy. With that being said, we go to Fresno. Last time out, took a netminder, and the Fresno Falcons are running it back with another netminder.
Another goal to end. The Fresno Falcons have gotten one of the best goaltenders in the FPHL, if he plays in the FPHL, in Connor McAnanama from the Binghamton Black Bears, a former FPHL goaltender of the year, a former playoff MVP. Now, at the beginning of this season, he lost his net to Dominic Tomei. When they signed Tomei took over the cage, and it ended up with McAnanama going to the SPHL because he wasn't getting the opportunities that he wanted in Binghamton. So now he gets an opportunity to go out to Fresno, and he will battle with Dyson Skinner for the top goaltending spot in that net. But Fresno really building from the crease out, it looks like.
This could be one of the picks that is, you look back in a year's time, that could be the biggest steal. That you have a guy with, that if you get him in the building and if you get him ready to go, that you're going to have your netminder all year long. And you're going to have your 1-2 with McAnanama and Skinner ready to go back to back. I mean, I think that is a huge pick for the Fresno Falcons. I really like what they did there. Sometimes you got to take a big swing, but I think that's one that Fresno can use, and if it hits, it's not going to be a single. You're swinging for the fences with a McAnanama pick.
Absolutely, and that he has the opportunity to go out there and really lock down the crease for Binghamton. So I think I'm going to be very interested to see, come training camp, the goaltending battle between Connor McAnanama and Dyson Skinner, see how that plays out, or see if maybe one of those guys gets moved to another place in exchange for another player that they think fills a need that was on a protected list, something along those lines. In case you missed it at the beginning of our show when we were explaining the rules, there are no trades allowed during the expansion draft, but obviously once the draft is over, teams are allowed to trade players and trade dispersal draft picks as well.
Right, because dispersal draft picks are on the table. And one other note is that for Binghamton, you're good the rest of the way. You know, Black Bear fans, you can go out there and say, as you see the rules coming up once again, with the 4 players picked, you don't have to worry about it anymore. You know who your 4 are that are gone. You know that, again, for Binghamton fans, just for you guys, because we want to be nice, Tyson Kirkby alongside with Cameron Cervoni and Emerson Emery were all going to Mid-South, and then Connor McAnanama was the final Black Bear taken. So Binghamton, your fans, now you're going to have to mourn the loss of those 4 players. However, you know the mourning is done.
And now Mac Jansen has to do some scouting of other
Yeah,
teams.
now Mac
He has to
Jansen,
pick,
you
he
know,
has to pick from somebody else.
Yeah, he does. He has to worry about a lot of other picks. So as we're waiting for the Stockton pick to come in, they will be next in the 3rd round of this draft, to finish out the 3rd round. I'm very excited to see what some of these teams are, because, you know, you look back at NHL expansion drafts in the past, and Fed ones in the draft as well. They just haven't got to see it unfold in real time, that they'll make picks with 2-3 other moves in mind, getting ready for that, because there is a lot of talks after the fact. By no means, this is the start of the offseason. This isn't the end of the offseason.
Yes, and expect a multitude of trades to come down via social media, via the official FPHL website in the next week or so. This is the high transaction time of the year around this expansion and the dispersal draft time. Now it appears that
No, Stockton, yeah, they're still waiting. They're still thinking on the pick. They're taking a little longer than everyone else. So we'll get you that pick as soon as it comes over the ticker. But Stockton thinking hard. Let's take a look back at their first 2 picks. Rasmus Asp alongside Matthew Garcia were the first 2. Again, backline guys that are hoping to set things up for Stockton.
Yep, starting the blue line, and that's where Stockton is trying to build from the blue line. We talked about Fresno building from the crease. Stockton trying to lock down that blue line before they get to the rest of their team.
So, again, as we wait for this, I want to remind you later on in the show, you will hear from Johnny Ruiz. You will hear from every representative of an expansion team getting ready to go into this season. So you'll hear from Mid-South, you'll hear from Minnesota, the 3 California teams, hear a little bit about what their thought process are, and if us two could kind of figure out exactly what it's going to be. So I think as we are ready, it's time for the Stockton pick as we wait with bated breath to see who's coming up for the Stockton Hockey Club out in California for their final pick of the 3rd round.
And exciting news with Stockton coming up this week on Thursday. They have a big announcement of their team name.
Yes, they do. Yeah. I know a lot of people love the team name graphic or the team name contest coming up. So there's been a lot of submissions and there's a lot of different concepts out there. But we're soon going to have all the different identities of the team as the Stockton pick. Again, we're getting it through, and it looks like it's going to be Don Carter Jr. coming through for the Stockton pro hockey team.
Yeah, Don Carter comes from Baton Rouge, another defenseman here for Stockton. He's been a guy who's been around the FPHL, been around with a few teams, but he's always found a home. Anytime he's been on the move, he's always found a home. And this past season split between Twin City and Baton Rouge. So Don Carter finds a new home out there in Stockton, and really building that defensive depth out there.
Yeah, no, again, blue line out, it's very different approaches, but Don Carter Jr. is the final pick of the 3rd round. That means it's time for round 4, the final round before the halfway point. It's back up to Minnesota, and Minnesota, they've taken some guys up front. They've looked around a little bit. They took a goalie in the 2nd round, and Will in the 4th round. They are going to take a goaltender as well. Topeka losing their first player of the night, their 2nd one towards the total in the form of Matt Lenz.
Yeah, Matt Lenz split this season between the Watertown Wolves and the Topeka Scarecrows. Scarecrows bringing him in because they wanted someone behind Sammy Bernard that was reliable after they lost to Neil Brizgalov. And Lenz came in. He did a pretty solid job there in Topeka. Maybe not exactly the job that they were looking for. He stayed unprotected because, of course, they do still have Bernard, and he is their top guy. But maybe Lenz gets a bit of a fresh start, having to play behind the Watertown defense, which Watertown gave up a lot of shots on goal, a lot of prime opportunities throughout the start of the season. And, for Lenz to start his career there in Watertown, that was probably a tough go for him. But, he played a few years of NCAA Division I hockey at Mercyhurst University, played a very good NCAA Division III season at Albertus Magnus. So we'll see if this is a bounce back year for Lenz in year number 2.
Yeah, and that's going to be one that, he already has the competition up there. Chris Kerr, who your 2 goalies are probably going to be going into camp, and I expect a fully open competition with Matt Lenz. So Mid-South coming up next, and they can't take a Binghamton Black Bear. Mac Jansen is going to have to go to the 2nd, 3rd, or 4th tab of his scouting list. He can't just go and go on speed dial and call one of his old teammates.
No, but he can also find somebody who he faced a lot from a team he faced a lot in Chance Adrian. And Chance Adrian was a guy who was picked up by Danbury. The Hat-Tricks made a lot of moves throughout the regular season. And there were times where people were like, weren't sure what the plan was with all these moves. But Chance Adrian is definitely a guy that worked out for the Danbury Hack Tricks. He had 11 points in 10 games with Danbury after coming over from PD. He's a guy who gets to the front of the net. Here's a good clip of him with a steal, quick shot on net, and again, here he is hustling to the back post, stick on the ice, ready to touch the puck home. So, Chance Adrian will get an opportunity to be a guy who's important for that team, and we'll see what kind of offense he's able to bring for Mid-South.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you can't take a Blackberry. You're going to take someone from right next door in Chance Adrian, as they will bring him down into Mid-South. He joins a trio of Black Bears in Emerson Emery, in Cam Cervoni, and Tyson Kirkby, who was the first pick. So that takes us to the midway point of round 4. We're going back out to Oceanside for the next pick. Oceanside Pro Hockey, they're going to go back to Monroe, and they are going to grab Isaiah Ike Frankel.
And how about our first collegiate player that gets selected? Each team was able to protect 3 of their collegiate signings, but they were able to sign up to 5 this past season. So that meant a few were going to be left exposed. And Franco was taken out of Franklin Pierce University by Monroe. He's a hard-hitting guy, did score a few goals as well. You see him getting to the dirty areas in front of the net. You see it here on this goal. Right there. So Ike Frankel to Oceanside, and should be an exciting player for Oceanside as he enters his first full pro season.
Yeah, and that's got to be encouraging for Frankel to get that vote of confidence that he's going to be, a very small sample size in the pros, and you're coming all the way from Monroe, coming out there to Oceanside. That's going to say, hey, we believe in you enough to use our 4th pick in the expansion draft to a guy that really just had a cup of coffee in the pro level. That tells me they see this guy as someone who can grow and someone who can become a player. Maybe not night 1, but maybe by game 56, you have a different guy than you do in the middle of October.
Absolutely. And now we go back out to Fresno, and here's a guy with some championship pedigree and a lot of experience. You could only pick one player from the Columbus River Dragons.
It's your turn, Columbus.
And that player is Alexander Jemayev.
Alexander Jemayev going out to California. He is joining Fresno alongside guys like Dyson Skinner, guys like Connor McAnanama, Austin Albrecht. And Alexander Jemayev and Austin Albrecht on the same team. I will tell you what, that just from box scores alone, Fresno seems to be doing pretty well in this draft.
Jemayev would be a dangerous running mate for Austin Albrecht up front. He had 34 points in 39 games this year for the Columbus River Dragons, where he's played the last 4 seasons, but did win a Commissioner's Cup with the Watertown Wolves back in 21-22, where he had 91 points in just 50 games there. So
pretty good.
He's been an over a point per game guy for his career, and a veteran guy as well. So when you're bringing a team together, when you have a bunch of new guys where, virtually nobody played together, the season before, and certainly nobody played together for that team before, having a veteran guy like that could be big for the locker room chemistry.
And one other thing to note on that graphic, hometown, British Columbia. So one thing, and that's something else, hey, he's from out west. So Columbus, Georgia is one of the spots where you're about as far away as possible from your hometown in your home province of British Columbia. Going out to California, no, you're probably not a quick day trip away, but you're a heck of a lot closer than being down near the Gulf of Mexico.
Absolutely. So we'll see if Alexander Jemayev and Austin Albrecht will be hooking up on offensively for the team out in Fresno.
I'll tell you what, again, that is a dangerous combo between the two with Jemayev and Albrecht, like you mentioned, Fresno fans, listen, they knew they had the watch party out there. They knew they had to come through with some pretty strong guys to get the fans excited, especially, okay, maybe some Minnesota fans and some Mid-South have already been in the sphere of influence of the FPHL. California, this is brand spanking new to them. So they're finding out like, man, we've got all these guys. We are good to go. This has been a pretty solid, at least on paper, draft for Fresno. We still have half of their picks to go. But, Will, you also know championships aren't won on the transaction page in the middle of June.
Nope. And we'll see how it all, fits together for them, again, especially in the goaltending department with McAnanama and Dyson Skinner back there. But at least offensively, they can have a dynamic 1-2 punch. Now we have one more pick in round number 4. Before we get to our interview with Johnny Ruiz, and for those of you who may have missed our pre-show and may not be familiar with the FPHL, maybe you're rooting for one of these new teams, Johnny Ruiz, longtime captain of the Danbury Hat-Tricks, suffered a stroke during this past season, and we got to catch up with him, talk about his recovery. So that is coming up in just a few moments. But first, our final pick of round 4.
And the final Twin City Thunderbird to be taken, Chris Mott, is heading to Stockton. Mott, the final Thunderbird to be selected in tonight's draft. Will, what are you thinking about the Stockton 4th round pick?
Chris Mott is an interesting player. He had a great season, rookie year with the Binghamton Black Bears, then got moved to Athens last year, split the year between Athens and Twin City, also had some time in the SPHL. And, maybe with this opportunity, he can really start to blossom and become a good top 6 guy for the Stockton Pro Hockey team.
Yeah, and now we're halfway through. Will, as we take a pause at this halfway point, I know we've talked about Fresno, but for each team, maybe outside of Fresno, since we just talked about them a little bit, who else has really stood out through their first 4 picks?
Minnesota has made sure they got somebody at every position. They have a couple of goaltenders, a forward, and a defenseman, and a really strong pick to start with Brandon Reller, Matt Lenz, and Chris Kerr, I believe, are very similar level of goaltenders. So, we'll see who wins that goaltending battle, and maybe one of those guys ends up shipped somewhere else. But that will be interesting to watch for Minnesota. And obviously, we talked about Stockton building from the blue line.
And Oceanside, we were talking about the size they're building, still looking for a goaltender. So haven't taken one yet. They've put the help in front of the net. They just haven't put anyone in the net. But as Will mentioned, we are getting ready to take a quick pause here in between round 4 and 5. Still half the draft to go. Again, at the end of the draft, you'll hear from all of the expansion teams, a representative from all 5 expansion teams, and then also some information on possible league structure and scheduling coming up. But first, as Will alluded to, we got a chance earlier in the day to sit down via a conference call with Johnny Ruiz, again, who suffered a stroke in January of this past year, and talk about how he's doing and what it meant to him to see all the support pour out, not just from the Danbury fans, but across the FPHL, and what was a moment that really showed how much hockey can be family. So here's our conversation with Johnny Ruiz from earlier in the day. We now take a little bit of time away from our expansion draft coverage to provide you an update with one of the legends of the FPHL. Back in January, Danbury all-timer Johnny Ruiz suffered a stroke, and in a moment that really brought together everyone in the FPHL as a family. Johnny joins us now, and Johnny, I really appreciate you joining us. Can you just, how's it been going? How's the recovery been? And let's just start there. How are you doing?
Thank you for having me. I'm doing better. It's a lot of rehab with therapists and speech occupational therapy and stuff like that. So been just trying to my best to get back to normal.
What was your reaction when you saw all the support from around the league when it all first happened?
It was amazing, very heartwarming. You never see anything like this happen. But besides, Danbury fans, you expect that to be there for you, but to see you out throughout the league was, unbelievable. And, no matter what happens is, um, good or bad, where they talk smack on you, your rivals, it's always, see them, be there for you. And they were one of the first ones to reach out, to donate to me and my family for the medical bills and stuff like that. So it was really cool to see.
Yeah, you guys have some pretty intense rivalries in Danbury. Those fans have just a little bit of a reputation. So naturally, on the ice, everyone wants to beat Danbury, wants to go in there and have success. But to have that moment of pause, did it just? I mean, what did it say about just what the sport of hockey is as a whole? Because it's not unique to the Fed. I'm glad that it is, but just what it means to be in the larger hockey family.
It's always the hockey world is incredible. No matter what, they're always there for you, good or bad, and it's really cool to see. And then, like, my first time back in the arena, we were playing against Binghamton, and they announced that I was there, and it was really cool to see both teams, give me a standing O. Even the refs were clapping, and it's something that, like, I got teary eyed. I lost it. I got real emotional about it, but it was just showed how, you know amazing this sport can be, and especially the people in it.
Have you been able to get back involved with hat tricks and the organization at all over these last month or two?
I'm sorry, can you say it again?
You've been able to get back involved with the organization, with the hat tricks over the last couple of months, and kind of what's that role been like for you?
I was just trying to be there, like, as a teammate, captain, one of the former coaches. I just tried my best to be there for them throughout the season. I mean, I was there for the last month or so. So I would go to practices, obviously the games. Towards the end of the season, I was able to be on the bench with them, just to be there for support and whatnot.
How important was that, to get back to what you've always done? Because as an athlete, you get so used to, you've only known the rink, right, your whole life. So how much has that helped, or has it helped in the recovery, being able to be back with the guys and be hanging out, not just maybe from the medical sense, but just from, a sense of normalcy?
I know being in the hospital, going through the rehab, I was trying my best to heal and to whatever I can do to, discharge and go back to be with the guys. I mean, I was very confused when it all happened. So I do remember things like, all right, we have a road trip coming up. So my fiance was there to have the iPad there so I could watch. And I'm trying to understand, how to talk with them, to communicate, saying, good luck, this player needs help, or, we're doing well, we're playing well. So that's something I was really driving for, was to try to get back there. So to get back on the ice with them, to be just in the locker room with them, the arena, it was something special for me. So it's something that really motivated me.
What's next for you? What are the next steps as we go into the summer?
Just training, really. I would love to play again. Who knows? I got clearance through a lot so far. Just need the final green light to play again. That's something I would love to see. I feel like I, didn't get to go out the way I wanted to. So to play in this uniform, in this league, to play meaningful hockey and really compete is something I really want. Obviously, there's a lot of obstacles in the way, but really, I'm trying to try and train and prepare like as if I can.
So that obviously that would be something not just everyone in Danbury, but across the Fed, old fans and new, would be hoping for. Who's helped you? Who have been some of the biggest supporters along the way, helping you get this far on the road to recovery?
Well, my family, my teammates, the fans here in Danbury, but throughout the league, you know, different fans like Binghamton fans, Carolina fans, Watertown fans, they always check in on me, how I'm doing. Obviously, whether it's nice letters they send and stuff like that, but those people have been, you know, something I'll always cherish, you know, these people during this time for me.
Johnny, before we let you go, do you have any other message for the fans as they continue to support you here?
Now, just thank you so much. Really, I love you all. Shows how, like I said, how great the hockey world is, especially this league and the fans. So, bottom of my heart, I thank you and I love you all.
Well, Johnny, thank you so much for taking some time to give everyone the update. I know not just me and Will, but everyone is going to be hoping to see you back out on that ice in an orange sweater sometime soon.
Thank you.
Thanks, Johnny. Good luck the rest of the way. For taking some time out to give us an update on what he's gone through and where he's at now. And Will, I know we both hope we see him on the ice again sometime soon.
Absolutely, and I hope his first game is against the Prowlers, so it can be my entire pregame show is about that. No, but in all seriousness, it was great to catch up with Johnny Ruiz when we were there in April. With the Prowlers, to see him just walking around the rink, walking around up by the Axtrix Lounge after the game. It was so awesome to see, and we wish him all the best.
All right, with all that said, we do have a draft to get back to. 4 rounds down, 4 rounds to go. Let's go to the 5th round. The first pick of the 5th round, the Minnesota Northern Lights are going to take a Danbury hat trick in Austin Pickford.
Yeah, Austin Pickford. This is a guy who can throw the body. He played for PD and Danbury throughout the season. He throws the body, but he also jumps up into the play offensively. Watch this last goal. That's Pickford controlling the puck behind the net, puts it on net, finds it again, and is able to score. So he's a guy, he has a little bit of offensive ability in him, but you know when you're coming down his side, you have to watch when he's going to try and throw that hit.
Well, if you're going to play in Danbury, most of the time you have to play a certain way. So Pickford going to head out to Minnesota to join the North Stars. And really, now you're starting to see the core solidify. Again, these are not going to be, again, the start of the offseason, not the end. But Pickford, the latest member to go to the Minnesota Northern Lights. And that means that's also the 3rd Danbury hat trick taken. So fans out in Connecticut, they only have to wait for a player to be called one more time.
Only one more for Danbury. The pain's almost over for you Hat-Tricks fans. But now we move back to Mid-South, and they go down to Virginia to get their next pick.
Well, they might be going over from South Haven to Virginia.
That might be north from there.
Yeah, a little northeast. Either way, Mid-South heading over there. They can't stray too far from Binghamton. Damian Furuseth coming to the Monarchs.
And Damian Furuseth does have a lot of speed to him, but he does like to get to the front of the net, and also played a few games in the SPHL this season. This was his 2nd full pro season. Only played 13 games last year, so really jumped into it this year with the Blue Ridge Bobcats. By the time playoffs rolled around, he was kind of that 9th, 10th forward, but you know, as we see a lot with expansion drafts, no matter what league, no matter what sport, you see guys who end up on a different team and they get an opportunity that they didn't have with their former team. And I think about a guy like Emerson Emery and Cam Cervoni down in Mid-South with this as well, who may not have gotten the opportunities in Binghamton. Damon Furuseth is going to get an opportunity here with a new team, and maybe an opportunity for him to blossom with more ice time and more power play time and things like that.
Oh, absolutely. And sometimes, you know, it might not be anyone's fault. There's just some pretty good players ahead of you.
Yep.
So there's only one puck. There's only 5 guys that can be on the ice at once. Another example I'll use is a guy who has become a mainstay of the league in Trevor Babin. His first 2 teams were the Delaware Thunder and the Battle Creek Bees or Rumblebees. His numbers didn't look too great. If you would have taken him, you know, when Motor City got him after the Rumblebees, you're going, okay, this guy's numbers isn't anything to pop off about and get excited. But then he turned into one of the goaltenders that's kind of a household name here around the FPHL. So just because a guy's box score doesn't look great doesn't mean he can't grow. And a lot of these guys are younger. Furiseth, 22 years old. So he definitely has room to go. Nowhere near his physical prime yet.
Absolutely. And now we can move on. Our next pick is a guy who only has a few games of pro hockey experience from the Port Huron Prowlers. Justin Jamer is the next pick as he goes to Oceanside.
Yeah, Oceanside picking up the second Prowler picked in the night. Again, another guy that just kind of was getting his feet wet.
Jamer has his jersey over his head. He's still going.
But he did everything he
Zimmerman
could to make an impact
throwing
right
some
away.
rights.
22 PIM in just the 5 games he was a part of.
Now, 10 of those PIMs are from that fight that you're seeing right there. He didn't have his jersey tied down, so he's not the goon that his penalty minutes may suggest, but he is a big guy. He will throw the mitts. He will throw punches as well, and he brings a lot of size to the lineup. Came out of Adrian College's ACHA program. He was the captain there before coming to the Prowlers. He was the first collegiate signing by the Prowlers this season.
And like we talked about with every collegiate signing, the kind of vote of confidence it gives to a young player that, hey, you're going to come and you're going to grow with us. You're going to get on the ground floor. And maybe a spot like Port Huron where, the Prowlers have a pretty established core right now. And breaking into that top 6 is going to be tougher than some other spots where guys have been there 2, 3, 4 seasons. Now you can go out to Oceanside and you have a chance to be a part of something new and start fresh with everyone else.
Absolutely. So Justin Jamer, the second Port Huron Prowler selected, and he heads to Oceanside. But let's get back in the crease with another Fresno goaltender.
Listen, Fresno is not going to have any shortage of goaltenders, and Fresno is taking the second goalie from Topeka. It's Josh Rosenzweig.
So Josh Rosenzweig was traded to Topeka, didn't end up playing for the Scarecrows after starting the season with the Biloxi Breakers. Rosenzweig spent the rest of the year in the SPHL with the Quad City Storm, and he was one of the options that Topeka was looking for to help be a part of a tandem with Sammy Bernard. But he's a very athletic goaltender. He has great pedigree, an OHL guy back in the day, played for the Niagara Ice Dogs in the OHL. So he's played major junior, and you see the windmill save there on that last highlight. But again, a very athletic goaltender, and man, the goalie battle out there in Fresno is getting interesting. If you like goalies, for anyone at that watch party out there in Fresno, you're going to like this team.
There might be some free agent goalies sitting out in California going, okay, maybe Stockton, maybe Oceanside, but Fresno's got a bit of a log jam. But this is another one that feels like a big swing, right? That he's got the size. He's 6'3", 220, a large frame in that net. And if you can entice him, which I don't know how much enticing it takes to get out to California, but if you can bring him out there, that's a guy that could battle. So maybe the reason why they waited a little longer, probably really liked him, but since he never actually played in Topeka, could see if they're going to come out or not. But if he does, well, there's going to be 3 solid goalies already as Falcons.
So Josh Rosenzweig to the Fresno Falcons, and that brings Stockton back up, and we know Stockton likes them some defensemen. And they like Sam Turner from the Monroe Moccasins. Yeah,
Monroe losing another player once again. Monroe has now lost their 4th and final player of the expansion draft, but Sam Turner going out to Stockton. Monroe losing Turner to Stockton, and he's a guy that had a lot of assists this year. You see the 37 points over 51 games. A little bit of an older player in this league, but a veteran presence coming to Stockton.
Yeah, Stockton continuing, again, building from the blue line. And for Monroe, they've lost Rasmus Asp and Sam Turner now losing a couple of good blue liners and guys who played good roles for them this past season. So we'll see how they are able to replace those roles. But Turner spent the last 3 years with the Mississippi Seawolves before going to Monroe this season. So we'll see how he can bring that experience there. He's been in the FPHL since the 2018-19 season.
Yeah, so a guy that knows his way around the league. And like I said, having a guy like that can maybe help some of the new guys, not even necessarily rookies, but guys that are new to the FPHL, just understand what it takes to be successful in this league, that it is a little different brand of hockey than you might see in the Coast or in the A, that it's going to be a little more physical and it's going to be a little more old school, and he's a guy that 100% understands it. So just to recap the 5th round, you had Austin Pickford to Danbury, Damon Feruseth going to Mid-South. Oceanside takes Justin Jamer out of Port Huron. Rosenzweig goes from Topeka to Fresno, and as we just mentioned, Sam Turner heading out to Stockton. Getting down to the last 3 rounds, teams running out of picks here as the 6th round is underway. Let's go back to Thief River Falls, Minnesota, where the Minnesota Northern Lights are going to take another Danbury hat trick. This time it's Lucas Robinson.
And how about another former ACHA captain, Justin Jamer, selected a few picks ago. And Lawrence Tech University's captain, Lucas Robinson, was a collegiate signing by the Danbury Hat Tricks this season. Only played 2 games for the Hat Tricks, but with Lawrence Tech, 28 points in 26 games. He's a Royal Oak, Michigan native, but now heads to the other side of the lake to Minnesota.
Yeah, and again, this is another college guy. I'm going to keep reiterating that this is someone who the Northern Lights are going to hope grows with them. Obviously, only 2 games in the Fed. You're going off of what he did in college. And anytime you have a captain, you're going to presume that they're a leader, that there's someone that can be trusted in the locker room, and someone who is going to learn their role and maybe grow into a role. So bringing in a guy like Robinson, again, maybe a little bit of a riskier pick because there's not a lot of film on him at the pro level. There's still some questions. However, sometimes it's got to risk it for the biscuit, and if he hits, now you just got to steal in the 6th round.
Absolutely, and now we move back to Mid-South.
We do. We go back to Mid-South. Again, no more Black Bears to take. They've been staying around the Northeast. No longer. The first player taken from the Baton Rouge pro hockey team, Lucas Pekarzik, coming from Baton Rouge to Mid-South.
Now, Lucas Pekarzik didn't end up playing a game for Baton Rouge, but he was the captain of the Biloxi Breakers for most of this season. And Pekarzik was one of the lone bright spots on a pretty terrible Biloxi team, to put it bluntly. 37 points in 48 games. Again, he earned that captaincy to be the leader of that team. And Lucas Pekarzik has some offensive firepower, and playing on a team like Biloxi, it's sometimes tough to show all you have offensively, but he's played 2 seasons there in Biloxi and Mississippi, played last year with the Mississippi Seawolves. So now he gets an opportunity to go down to Mid-South where they have some offensive help. And now we're seeing a bit of a theme with Matt Jansen, the way he's building his squad. A lot of forwards, but a lot of guys who are up-and-comers. You have Tyson Kirkby to lead the way, and now you have some of these up-and-coming guys who may not have gotten the opportunities, whether if they were down in the lower parts of a lineup that just had a lot of good players above them, or a guy like Lucas Pekarzik who had, who was just not on a very good team.
No, and I think he's a prime example of what we talked about earlier, where you can get a guy who maybe was not in the best situation or underutilized, that can go to a new spot, get a fresh start, and blossom somewhere. Again, awarded the captaincy. You saw what he was able to do in spurts. So now you get a guy like Tyson Kirkby. So now 2 captains taken by Mid-South. I'm going to presume Mac Jansen wanted to build a strong locker room. We'll have to ask him that after the draft. But Baton Rouge lost their first player. We go next Oceanside is going to go back to Kansas to take another player. And this is another guy with maybe not the most to go off of, but Nathan Carl heading out to Oceanside.
Nathan Carl spent a decent chunk of this season in the SPHL, ended the year with the PD IceCast, just got in enough games to be playoff eligible. Didn't end up playing a game in the playoffs on PD's run to the final, but 26 years old. This was his rookie season after playing 4 years at Nichols College, where he put up some pretty good numbers there. So now, again, we continue this narrative of guys getting an opportunity now where maybe they wouldn't have gotten one in the team they were with previously. And it's always tough to join a team midway through a season, as he did with PD, even if you're coming out of a different league, and even if you have a high pedigree like he did, being a half point per game, over a half point per game at Nichols College his senior year. So maybe Nathan Carl is able to show some more in Oceanside and become a good player there.
Yeah, so he's going to be joining them out of Topeka, and then Oceanside, again, still trying to build up their team. Midway through the sixth round, 8 rounds total in this one. We thank you so much for joining us on the first ever broadcast here on the FPHL YouTube page. Again, Will, I know there's still a lot to go, but this is part of what has been the initiative to move the Fed forward, get them into a more transparent state, and also, utilize this more. This will not be the only piece of media that will be on this page. Nothing set in stone, but I know there's plans to utilize this more throughout the season and not have this be a one and done.
Absolutely, and we have an exclusive interview that's going to be
Yes,
posted
we
on this
do.
page tomorrow, so be sure to come back to the FPHL on YouTube for that exclusive interview with what will be one of the newest coaches in the FPHL.
And we thank everyone so much for tuning into this. I know we've had people from Michigan out to the Atlantic Ocean, down to the Gulf, out west to the West Coast. And we thank you all for spending part of your Tuesday with us. But no more bloviating from me. Let's go on to Fresno's next pick, the 29th overall pick in the expansion draft, the fourth pick in the 6th round for Fresno, a Blue Ridge Bobcat, Caden Henry.
Well, Caden Henry did not end up playing a game for the Blue Ridge Bobcats. He ended up finishing the year in the SPHL, and fantastic numbers for the Biloxi Breakers. He was far and away their best offensive player throughout the season when he was there. 36 points in 17 games, 15 goals, so nearly a goal per game there. And then in the SPHL, how do you like this split? With the Peoria Rivermen, 17 goals, 5 assists. He's a goal scorer.
Yeah, he's a guy that is a playmaker, and that, Fresno's hoping is a guy that they'll get out there, and when they do, a young guy, again, the 24 Ontario native, get him out there and use him to grow. Fresno taking some big swings with this, especially, I'm sure they look at that and go, okay, we pair him with a guy like Austin Albrecht. We pair him with a guy like Alexander Jemayev, and that we can get these numbers even better. A young guy that can learn to grow as maybe some of those guys get a little older, a little longer in the tooth in their career. You get someone like Caden Henry to come through and be a big part of the Fresno Falcons. Takes us to the final pick of the 6th round, the Stockton Pro Hockey team. They are going to take someone that had a letter on their jersey. They're coming to Port Huron, and Jamie Bussell is the pick for Stockton Pro Hockey.
Yeah, Jamie Bussell, beloved in the Prowlers locker room for his leadership, and this fight right here is a great example. One of his teammates, Blake Anderson, gets hit, knocked out of the game. Bussell makes Jesse Anderson answer for it, and Bussell is such a great leader. This is a fight in the playoffs against the Blue Ridge Bobcats that may have been one of the reasons that turned the series around in Game 2. I mean, he's a guy who has all those intangibles as a leader, as a two-way player. He's trusted on the penalty kill, and he's been around the league for a while as well. So he's a fantastic player for the Stockton for Stockton to pick up and to be a leader in that locker room.
100%, and not just a guy that's beloved off the ice by the fans, but one that I can tell you in that locker room is very well respected. Stockton hoping to bring him in and make him maybe one of those guys that leads from the front, a veteran of this league, someone that's been around and seen a lot of hockey, that wants to make him a cornerstone of the culture out in Stockton. Just 2 rounds to go, Will.
Yeah, and one last thing on Bucell. The Prowlers made it a priority when he became available midway through the year last year. They ended up making a trade with the Athens Rock Lobsters to make sure that Athens selected him off the waiver wire so he could go to Port Huron. That's what the Prowlers thought of him, and then they thought so much of him. He had a letter on his chest before the end of that season after joining the team midway through the year.
Yeah, and now Stockton thought a lot of him. That's why they took him in this draft. Go to the 7th round, and Minnesota back up, and Minnesota taking another goalie and another Prowler taken in this one. Bailey Huber heading out to Minnesota, man between the pipes, an acrobatic goalie going to the Northern Lights.
And Bailey Huber got better as this season went along. You see the numbers on your screen. They might not jump out to you. That save percentage might not jump out to you, but if you split it up from the first half of the season to the second half of the season, he was a completely different goaltender as he grew. He was a rookie goaltender this season, and he went through those growing pains in October, November, December, and of course you have Reed Cooper as your number 1, so there were long stretches where Bailey Huber wasn't seeing game action, but every day at practice, day after day, coming to morning goalie skates, and everything he could do to improve, he did that. And when you got to the end of the season, if you just look through his last few games, look at the numbers through the last few games of the year, Bailey Huber was a great goaltender. He was an all-conference goaltender in college at St. John's University. So I think this is a guy that you can trust in growing, and it looks like Minnesota is trying to trust some young goaltenders to see who's going to grow out of training camp and who's going to take that job.
Well, there was a long stretch where Reed Cooper was out, and Bailey Huber held down the fort very well. That was a spot where Port Huron at the time was still kind of jockeying for home ice in the first round, and it wasn't solidified really until Cooper came back at the very tail end of the season. If Bailey Huber doesn't have the run he does, Blue Ridge maybe hosts that first round, and who knows what history says if there's 2 games out in Virginia instead of just game 1. Go back to Mid-South and the Monarchs. They're going to New York, but they're not going to Binghamton. They can't anymore. They take Darian Benchich out of Watertown.
Well, when the season began, Watertown had some really high-end guys, Steven Klink, FM Michigan, and Igor Filipov. They traded Klink, and Michigan and Filipov ended up leaving the team near the end of the year. Who was left? Darian Benchich, who was kind of like the 4th guy in that group, but he played top offensive minutes. He played on that top power play, and he could run a line himself, and he was the top offensive guy on their second line typically, or if they would mix up the lines, they'd put him with Klink as well. So Darian Benchich is a guy that despite being on a Watertown team that missed the playoffs, even he had some offensive guys above him in the depth chart that maybe kept him from getting every single opportunity throughout the year. But then once those guys were gone, you saw it, and he really did take a hold of that. And, was great for them offensively down the stretch.
Well, and again, now as we're getting to the final few rounds, I'm sure fans out there that have been doing the math, there's only a few teams left that can make picks, or that can be picked, because with the Bailey Huber pick, that was the final one for Port Huron. Blue Ridge lost their final player. So only down to a few teams available to select from as we go to Oceanside, and they're going to take a teammate of Benchich. They're going to go with Ryan Gill out of Watertown.
And Ryan Gill, also a former teammate of Alexander Jemayev, but he didn't play in the 24-25 season, came back for this year, but hadn't played since early January. But Gill does have some good ability there on the blue line. California native.
That helps a lot.
Well, so I'm sure that helps a lot. So we'll see if he heads back home and can lock down that blue line for Oceanside.
And again, helps California native. Probably, hey, why don't you come on home? Why don't you come back to your home state? Now, I will say I do not know California geography like the back of my hand, so it's a big state. Just because you're in California doesn't necessarily mean you're close, like some other states out east. But Ryan Gill from Torrance, he is going to head to San Diego and Oceanside for this upcoming season, which takes us to the Fresno Falcons penultimate pick. In the 4th pick of the 7th round, Fresno, they are going to take a swing with Landon Johnson from Baton Rouge.
So Johnson did not play for Baton Rouge. He hasn't played since February the 22nd, started the year with the Monroe Moccasins. But this was his rookie year out of Gustavus Adolphus College, and he
Say
played
that 5 times.
Yeah, and he played some time in the SPHL as well this season. So, another guy who is a rookie and another guy who can grow with the team out there in Fresno.
Yeah, like you said, not a lot. Hey, you wouldn't expect a Minnesota native. You kind of, maybe if you're looking at it, pegging him to go to Thief River Falls, but going to Fresno out there. So Baton Rouge losing a couple players here as we go to the end of the 7th round. Just a handful of picks left and a very familiar name, especially to those that were playing in the north that saw Watertown a lot, in Chase DeBari.
Yeah, Chase DeBari has been a staple in Watertown over the past few years. Only played 27 games this season, but he still has some ability. And
17 points in those 27 games.
17 points in those 27 games. He has some speed. He has some deception as well. He does bring an edge to his game a little bit sometimes too. So, that could be another interesting player there for Stockton, and we'll see if a change of scenery helps him as well, because again, a bit of a down year for him, only playing those 27 games. And how about another California native?
Ladera Ranch, California. Again, I'm going to learn a lot more about cities in California, Will. I'm sure you're the same way. As you start to go to these places, as you start talking about these teams, you start to learn the geography around certain places. I mean, you being from the Northeast, I'm sure you knew more about that, but now you know about Georgia geography. You know about Louisiana geography, especially when you're on a bus for a long time and you get to go through all those small towns between point A and point B.
Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes you learn where universities are. Sometimes you learn that there's a university across the street from an FPHL arena like there is down in Winston-Salem.
Yes, there is. Down on campus down there. 1 round left, final few picks here. Minnesota, their final pick as they round it out, they're going to go to Baton Rouge, and they're taking Hunter Alden.
Hunter Alden split this season with Athens and Baton Rouge, spent most of the year in Baton Rouge, and he's a guy who can be trusted in the defensive zone. You see him blocking shots here on this highlight reel, and also here on the penalty kill, getting a shorthanded goal as well. So, good two-way guy for Minnesota in Hunter Alden. Played at SUNY Plattsburgh and Alvernia University. This was his 2nd pro season. And from one of the most fun places to say in the United States, Walla Walla, Washington.
Walla Walla, Washington native going to Thief River Falls, Minnesota. He has a knack for finding his way to unique town names. He's not going to ever end up in a Johnstown, is he?
No.
From Walla Walla to Thief River Falls, Hunter Alden, the final pick here. So that means it's time for Mid-South and the final picks. And Will, there's a team name that we haven't really said a whole lot since all the way back in the 1st pick of the 2nd round. That was the Indiana Sentinels.
Yes, the Indiana Sentinels can lose 3 more players.
Spoiler alert, they're going to lose 3 more
how many
players.
Picks there are left. We were just told that Stockton will not make its final pick in this expansion draft because there were only 39 players eligible to be selected.
When you put the math together, yes.
We put all the math together. So they will get the 1st pick in Thursday's dispersal draft. Great work from our team getting that up there as well. So no 8th-round pick for Stockton. So that means the last 3 picks of the draft have to be from Indiana.
Yes, they are.
And it starts with one of their top pairing defensemen.
Yes, it does. Another one of the fun names to say, Ivan Panovanov is going to Mid-South as the Monarchs' final pick. Will, you saw a lot of Panovanov in the 25-26 season.
Yeah, he was trusted with big minutes for Indiana. Power play, penalty kill. He brings the physicality as you're seeing in those clips, but he can also score a few goals as well. And he scored on the power play, and it was obviously a tough season for Indiana, but Panovanov does have some ability, and on a better team than Indiana, he can certainly slot in, maybe not as a top pairing guy, but maybe somewhere down in those pairings.
Again, you never know with the room to grow in a new location and a new set of scenery can change up a lot. But Ivan Panovanov, one of the players, again, you saw a lot over this past year. He's going to end up in Mid-South as the Monarchs wrap up their draft. Now we go to Oceanside, and Will, you tell me what's the more fun name to say, Ivan Panovanov or Maximus Merrick Tortorella, because he is the final pick for Oceanside Pro Hockey coming from the Indiana Sentinels. Again, we know this pick and the next pick will both be from Indiana, but Maximus Merrick Tortorella, as I just want to say the name again, going out to Cali.
Well, sometimes by the time I say Maximus Merrick Tortorella's name, the puck was on and off his stick already. He was a very skilled player there for Indiana. He had his bright spots, had his really good moments where he was able to show off that ability. And, I think he has an opportunity to grow as well out there in Oceanside. This was really his first full pro season. Played 1 game last year for HC Venom after finishing his last junior season in the GMHL. So we'll see if he can continue to grow. Only 23 years old, so still an opportunity for him to build on everything he's done this season and become a piece there in Oceanside.
Yeah, Maximus Merrick Tortorella going out there as Oceanside rounds this out. And right before the last pick, reminder, once we give you the last pick, don't go anywhere. A member of or a representative from each of the 5 expansion teams will be joining us after the draft ends. And then after that, we will also talk a little bit about the plans for the league structure and the schedule coming up in the near future. And also just take a look at the teams as a whole now that we have the whole picture. But with that said, the final pick in the 2026 FPHL expansion draft from the Indiana Sentinels is Dalton Anderson.
Oh, Dalton Anderson is a 5-year veteran of the FPHL, and he's bounced around. He's been with a lot of different teams. He led Biloxi, or the Mississippi Seawolves, in goals for a bit last season. Over his FPHL career, 68 goals, 44 assists. So he's certainly a finisher, 30 years old. So he's been around for a while and has some experience and can certainly put the puck in the net.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is, again, a more veteran guy that with the last pick, that's maybe something you want to look for, right? Yes, he can contribute on the stat sheet, but you want someone, again, in the locker room. And I know we're coming back to the same things over and over again, but that's because over, 100+ years of hockey, it usually comes back to the same thing. What do the best teams say? Usually don't hear about a bunch of, chemistry issues after the fact for teams that hoist the cup. Usually you hear that for teams that underachieve. So the fact that you get guys that are veterans that you hope can stabilize a locker room, that's what you're looking for with something like that.
And when you have guys like Austin Albrecht and Alexander Jemayev and Caden Henry potentially on your offense, Dalton Anderson can slot in there as a depth scorer and just kind of do what he does best and provide some pop from maybe one of the lower 2 lines.
So we have all the picks are in. Again, our coverage not over. Will, now that the dust has settled, before I ask you what expansion team you think had the best day, which returning team do you think had the saddest day for all the fans watching at home?
Look, I know they got it out of the way earlier today, but if you're Binghamton Black Bear fans, you see Tyson Kirkby, who's been there since since the beginning.
Yes.
And he's been your captain. He's been the first guy to raise the Commissioner's Cup each of the last 3 years. To see him no longer in a Black Bears jersey is going to be very, very weird this upcoming year. So I think that's tough for Binghamton. But I mean, outside of that for Binghamton, you didn't lose too much. You lost a couple of depth pieces, and then you lost a goaltender who lost his crease and wasn't there for most of the year. So honestly, I think Binghamton did make out pretty well. But if you're going by feels, I think you have to think about Binghamton and Tyson Kirk.
With that, it's because they've been so good, and you feel like he's been one of the heart and souls of that team that has been so dominant. Yeah, it feels like even if Binghamton is, a top team next year and their history says they will be a contender, you feel like it's a different identity in a different era, right? That you lose that centerpiece of your team. Monroe lost some guys early on that they might be another team that lost a few guys that they probably would have preferred to keep if they had a few more protected spots.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I feel like there has to be more to Austin Albrecht being available, and I don't know if that's information that we will ever get.
Right.
But a guy of that caliber offensively, and the guy who led their team offensively for most of the year until he got hurt, him being available was a little bit surprising to me. But again, there must be something deeper. But I think about Rasmus Asp and Sam Turner, guys who played solid roles for that team throughout this past year. That's a couple of holes on the blue line that they are going to have to fill.
Yeah, and then, all right, 2 expansion teams. I know Fresno maybe had the flashiest, but I think what could be the sneaky one is Oceanside it seemed like had a very deliberate approach to this one. And again, maybe at the end, if you look at total points next season, it might not come from this, but we're going to get ready to see what they have to do. So, as we mentioned, we're going to have all 5 expansion teams brought in. I believe our first one going to be Stockton. I believe will be the first one to get going. I know we have everyone ready to go, or at least getting ready on the back end, and we thank everyone in advance. So, I believe we have the representative from Stockton coming in, an old friend in Mr. Scott Brand. Scott, do we got you on your end?
Hopefully I set everything up.
I know we had to move him around. He's been a busy guy tonight. There he is.
Scott Brand.
There's the familiar face, the Mr. Fed himself. Scott, how's it going?
I'm doing well. You're right. It's been a busy day. We got blessed with 3 huge partnerships we got today. Then obviously we had the draft, and tonight, because of the time change, I've got to head up to Sacramento to go do a post-game NHL Stanley Cup report. So lots of stuff going on.
Can I just say, leave it to Scott Brand. We're on an expansion draft show talking about 8 new guys that he has to make up his team, or 7 new players. And the first thing he goes is, hey, 3 partnerships today. Got the signature on the dotted line. Scott, I mean, it's been the same thing as always. But let's talk about the approach here. It seems like you wanted to go from the back front. Rasmus Asp with the first pick. What was the thought process early on with the expansion draft? Something you've been a part of a few times in Fed history.
Yeah, actually, I guess I have. I think 4 teams now, but listen, you can't teach size. So there's something for you young people to remember, and obviously good size with him and a defenseman on Monroe there, and so when we saw he was available, we really liked him and like to build a defensive core around him.
Yeah, and you added some forwards there later in the draft. Jamie Bussell, Chase DeBari, a couple of guys with experience. What did you like about them? Guys who have been around the league a little bit.
Well, experience, and we definitely want experience. And full disclosure, Matt Garcia is a very close family friend. When I was in PD, I got to see come and whip us a couple times there early in the season when he was with Athens, and so he was the guy we took. But listen, some of the guys we took aren't exactly flashy, but they're basic players. You're not going to have a player that's going to point in every game. So we want guys who bring stability. Obviously, with an expansion team, it's important that we come out of the gate. We don't necessarily have to win everything right off the bat, but as long as we're we're competitive, that's important to us.
So, as I mentioned earlier, you've been a part of a few expansion drafts as we get a look at where Stockton will be playing, a beautiful arena out in California. What have you seen over the years in the Fed, and what have teams done in expansion drafts that have led them to early success? Carolina had early success. Columbus had early success. What was it in those expansion drafts? I know it's a little bit of a different era, but did you see in there that helped teams have immediate success in the Fed?
So I think the biggest thing that teams are doing differently now is instead of shooting for the high end, franchise team, they're getting guys who are going to fill in their second line, third line, and possibly a couple of years. It's a smart draft. Why would I draft a guy knowing he's not coming here, or why would I draft a guy who just isn't going to fit for the sake because he's got 100 points or whatever the case may be. I think what's happened is the league has evolved. I think our coaches have definitely evolved, and our general managers. And instead of just taking a flyer on this guy's got a lot of points, we actually do our homework now. So there's been some really good work done. I think that's a congratulations to the league and how competitive we've gotten.
So Scott, I know you're not doing it, quite so deliberately, but would you just like to show off the ring just to get it out of the way? Because you made sure it's been center of the shot every time.
Oh.
Yeah, I just happened to have it there. You got to. Yeah, got to show off the hardware a little bit. You've only had it right in the middle. There you go. All right, now. We've seen the ring. Well, I'll let you go. I just know that Scott, he had his hands folded quite deliberately for it. So I just wanted to let him get it out of his system.
Scott, what's it been like working with the community there, and how's the response been to bringing back pro hockey?
Well, I think I was like everybody else, a little skeptical. What the heck are we going to California for? I can tell you this is that, between Oceanside, Fresno, and us, it's amazing. We're over 1,000 season tickets. We have people, we need help here. We're going to have a staff here on Monday, so that'll be good. But it's people miss hockey here, and you've shown a picture of that building. No offense to any building in the league. That's the nicest building I think that'll be in the league. Oceanside, I will tell you, is a brand new building. I believe that you'll have to take your shoes off to go into Oceanside. And Brady, you're gonna need a haircut, even though there are a lot of hippies out here. But listen, we're 9,700 people. I was in it today. We've got sky boxes. We've got a club section. It's just an amazing building, and it's gonna up the ante to teams joining the Fed.
So first of all, for the hair, you can talk to Mrs. Beaton about that. She's the reason why it grew long in the first place. So if you want my haircut, you're going to have to go through Mrs. Beaton before you get my haircut. But my final question for you, Scott, is, so what are some of the things maybe behind the scenes that people don't think about when starting a team? Like everyone wants to have the name, everyone wants to have the coach and the players, but what have been some of the challenges and some of the rewarding parts of getting the team going? I know I joked with you, but 3 big partners is always integral to making sure a team has long-term viability. What has it been like?
Well, I think that the biggest thing that you have to look at when you're starting a team is all the little things are not there. We didn't have an office. That's kind of a pain in the where. And so right now the shot you're looking at, it happens to be from my living room in downtown Stockton here. But so just getting copy paper and setting up internets and that is really when you're going into a team that has nothing. That's the small things. I think probably obviously the biggest thing is when we announce the team is there's probably 500 people who've applied for a coach. There's been probably 5,000 players who have wanted to come play for me until they find out that I'm not in Oceanside. So, everybody wants to play in Oceanside. I mean, it's I hate to admit it when I went down. It's a beautiful city. It's a tremendous setup, and obviously San Diego is. Other than Port Huron, I can't think of a better place to play than San Diego. But no, I love Detroit. You know that too. Obviously, it's so many little things. Just hey, you run out of business cards because right now we're still looking for a name. We'll announce our name on Thursday. We'll announce our colors. We'll announce our logo. So that's kind of put us behind, but it's good because the community's got involved. And listen, it's not so much expenses out here, but you do pay 10 cents for a bag. I don't understand that, but with the expenses out here, the one thing that we have to be aware of, we have to be involved with the community. So it takes a lot more than just selling tickets, or a lot more than just selling partnerships. We have to be involved with the community. And here in California, particularly in our neighborhood, I mean, we have to reach out to the Hispanic community. So we've hired two people on staff that are fluent in Spanish. I am half Mexican American, so you would think that I would know Spanish, but I don't. Just the dirty words.
Well, Scott,
from my grandmother calling me them.
Scott, can you give two of your favorite FPHL broadcasters a little bit of a sneak peek on the team name or colors coming up?
Well, I think actually it's pretty obvious to me what it's going to be. It will be a name from the past. I don't want to, other than that, the team colors will probably be close to the same thing that a team that was here in the past too. But we'll change it enough so people have to buy new jerseys and new T-shirts. I'm not going to lose my money on that.
All right, Scott, we'll let you go. I know you have to go make more money somewhere else and bug someone else. So, Scott, we appreciate it. Thank you. Scott Brand of Stockton Pro Hockey. Thanks again for joining us.
Thank you all.
All right. Well, as Scott heads off to Sacramento or do whatever the heck else he has to do, show off his ring to whoever, we're going to stay in California, and we are going to go to the representative from Oceanside. Craig Carlisle is going to join us. Craig, again, the representative from Oceanside, and very excited to talk to Craig. Craig, do we have you on your end?
Yeah, I'm here.
Perfect, Craig. Well, let's jump right into it. First of all, thanks for joining us. But as Will and I talked about all broadcast long, it seemed like you guys had a very deliberate approach, taking some size, taking some back end help. What was the approach coming into the expansion draft? What kind of guys were you looking for?
So, my first pick, Cole Crowder, obviously a big guy, has some SP experience. Played 2 seasons in the league. I know him and his family from Sudbury. His dad played in the NHL. And I know his older brother. So there was a good connection there already. And I think he has the potential to be, a really, really, really great player for us, and a fan favorite. Other than that, I was looking at guys that had some experience in the SP or other leagues in Europe and things like that. So, and then Ike, obviously, you probably said it, but he is a San Diego kid. I was fortunate enough to coach him years ago when he was a younger man here in San Diego. So I have a good relationship with him and his family. And then a little bit more size and a couple of younger guys that have a little less experience, but will bring some energy, bring some young youthful energy, and sometimes a little bit of inexperience can be helpful because you don't know what you don't know, right? So that's kind of where my head was at.
Yeah, like clay that hasn't been molded.
Absolutely.
Well, what's been the reception that you've gotten from the community there in Oceanside as you've announced everything and as you've been building?
So we've had quite a few people, commenting on things. They still haven't announced the team name yet. Truly, I haven't even been announced as the coach yet. So that kind of stuff in the coming days here will garner a heck of a lot more attention. But I've been in town for a couple days, and there are people talking about it and are excited about it. So, there's a buzz here right now.
One thing as we go back to some of the picks, when I say this, I said it on the broadcast, and I mean this in a good way. You got some guys that might be able to play some boring style hockey, and I compared it to kind of the Carolina Hurricanes, where when you get suffocated, no, you might not win a game 7-6, but you have guys on the back end that are going to be, you're going to protect their own end first. Is that what Oceanside Pro Hockey, is that what you want it to look like? A suffocating defense first oriented style team?
Yeah, so in my experience, defense wins championships. That's, you build your team back end, down the middle. Obviously we need a goalie, and I have a couple in the works here. So playing good checking teams and good physical teams, like Binghamton was a very physical team. Obviously they've done a heck of a job the last 3 years, but being hard to play against and having some grit and some tenacity is the way that I want to play. It's the way I played as a player, and I think it certainly is reflected in our picks.
Is there any hint that you can give us about team name before it's announced?
To be honest with you, I don't even know. I know a few options, but they haven't even told me yet. So, I know as much as you do.
Oh, well, that's awesome. As you guys are starting to get going, I mean, what is the importance of getting this team out here, having the two other California teams, a brand new building? What is it like going into a new barn? Have you ever experienced that where you are basically you open the building up?
So no, I haven't. I've been a part of ones that are a couple of years old and several years old when I was back in Canada. But it's a beautiful place. It's right near the military base, so there's a rabid fan base of young men that are full of testosterone, probably looking to have some entertaining hockey to see. And a lot of those people are from out of state. They're from places that hockey is a hotbed, and now they have something that's close by. It's like I said, a few miles away from the base itself. And Oceanside as a community, when I moved to California 15 years ago, it was a vastly different place than what it is now. That rink's been built. There's been a ton of community development as far as restaurants and nightlife and things like that. Like it's a place that wouldn't even have been you wouldn't even be able to recognize it from when I first moved here. So it's young, it's vibrant, and you can't beat San Diego. I know Scott thinks Port Huron was just as nice. I heard on the broadcast, but I truly, there's a reason I stayed here as long as I did, and people stay here. So they'll be coming to players will be coming to a great situation, and there's something to be said about being able to wear sandals and shorts and a t-shirt to the rink 95% of the year.
I was going to say, so California, it's not the 1980s anymore. California can be just as much of a hotbed for hockey as, some of the more traditional markets like a Michigan and New York in Canada. What has that been like, being able to be a part of that and bring a team to, no, maybe not 40, 50 years ago would be considered a hotbed, but California is just as ingrained as hockey as most other places have been in the 21st century.
Yeah, you have a lot of transplants here too. At least in the hockey community, you have a ton of people from the Northeast. You got a ton of people from Canada that live here. And then, you have with the success of the NHL teams here and getting kids into hockey, like there's a lot of fans here that are they want more. So, we have in California the fifth most registered hockey players in the country, behind Minnesota, Massachusetts, New York, and I'm missing one, Michigan.
Yeah.
And so that speaks volumes on the thirst for the game here. So it's hard to get tickets to Kings games. It's hard to get tickets to Ducks games. So we offer an alternative and a great great entertainment for your money.
Craig, thank you so much for joining us, and best of luck with all of your announcements coming up soon. We'll see you on the ice in October.
Thank you guys very much.
Appreciate it, Craig. So as we continue on with this, getting some people connected with us as we wait for that, Will, talking about the California, let's just put it out there because this was kind of the shock to everyone, right?
Yeah.
I don't think anyone back in January was saying, we're going to be talking about San Diego, or Oceanside, San Diego area. We're going to be talking about Fresno and Stockton. But it was funny. We were getting ready for this. We were just on YouTube and we saw this video about the evolution of the league. And it started in two states 16 years ago. Basically, New York and New Jersey were the two where the first six teams are. I'm off the top of my head. So the way it's grown out to California has been great. And we're going to have our final representative out from California, a face I know people are familiar with throughout the FPHL with, with Parker Moscal on. Parker, do you have us on your end? Off the top of my head.
Hello?
So the way it's grown out to California has been great, and we're gonna have our final. Parker, I think you got us on in the background of your the background there. Parker, you got us? I think they're working through. With Parker Moscal. So we're working on connecting Parker. I know he's on the other end. I think he still had the broadcast on in the background. I thought I was talking to myself for a minute. But getting to hear from all the California teams is going to be something that, is going to be the jumping off point for what is going to be hopefully the next era and the next level of the Fed. So let's try it. Parker, do we have you on your end now?
Yep, you have me.
Oh, there we go. Awesome. So, Parker, like we have for the other two teams we've already talked to, let's talk a little bit about your expansion draft. And you had the big one of the big ones in the first round with Austin Albrecht, one of the highest point scorers available tonight. Were you expecting him to be at 4, and how quickly did you decide to take him?
So I helped recruit Austin previously, and he's excited to be in Fresno. We talked for a couple days before the draft, and they're excited we could bring him into the fold here. Fresno's an excited hockey community, and he's excited to be the top player in the league again this year.
Well, you got some top offensive talent. You also have 3 goaltenders. What's that goaltending battle going to look like? Because you have 3 guys who have seen significant time in the net.
So Rosenzweig's a career OHL guy. We're very fortunate to have him in. Obviously, he was the top dog with the Athens Rock Lobsters a couple seasons back. And then Connor's won 3 championships in the league and top goalie. And Dyson Skinner's also been another top goalie down south. So we're hoping to have a 3-head dragon down here this year.
I was going to say, no one in Fresno is going to be looking, no goaltenders in Fresno are going to be looking towards the free agent camp. Overall, coming into the draft, what was your approach, having been around the league for a while? What were you looking to do in this expansion draft?
We're looking for guys with high offense, high character, and obviously building from the net out as well. So you want those guys that can put the puck in the net and do it all, like Austin Albrecht. But you also want to have the top goaltending. I think being around the league, goaltending's the toughest place to find quality talent in our league, and really wanted to build from the net out.
Well, obviously, you guys had an expansion draft party, a watch party, all kinds of cool stuff going on in the community. How has the community embraced having hockey?
The community's been unbelievable. It's nothing like we've experienced before, I think, anywhere in this league. We had a great watch party at Tioga Sequoia Brewing. A very good partner of ours. Actually, all their beers are themed at Yosemite National Park. And, I mean, you can't go wrong with any drink here. And we had our winners from the expansion draft party raffle we had, where if you liked, shared, and tagged 3 friends, you could have an opportunity to win. And they sat right next to me for the whole draft, got to be a part of it, hear about some of our players, and it's just been unbelievable being in this market. People are hungry. It's been 17 years since pro hockey was last here, and people are chomping at the bit to get it down to Selland Arena.
So let's talk about going out to Fresno and your arena being shown to everyone at home. Obviously, California, a big jump. I think last year people thought Topeka was a big jump out west, now all the way to the Pacific Ocean. Why California and why right now for the FPHL out west?
The FPHL's goal is to be a coast-to-coast league by the close of the decade. Originally, they're looking at bridging the gap going through Texas, Utah, some of those states, and their decision to go to 3 markets in California and kind of bridge the gap. It was a great decision based off the fact the East Coast League was looking at some of these markets, the USHL as well. So being in the Federal League and knowing the history, we can hang our hat on the fact we beat out some of those different leagues to come into some of these markets. And it's an old school brand of hockey that I really think resonates with the fans. California, why here, why now was strictly the point to get to the 30 teams and go across the coast. We're changing the way the league does things, being more transparent, and I think fans are going to appreciate the transparency from the board of governors going forward, which maybe they haven't experienced in the past. And we're really looking to be a fan-first league.
So, okay, you talked about beating some other leagues to these markets. How much of that goes into it, saying like, hey, yeah, this would be great in 2-3 years, but there might not be a rink to go into in that time? How much of that played in to the factor to kind of maybe jump a little quicker than people were expecting to?
I mean, that definitely rushes occasionally. It wasn't so much in this case. One of the neat things we had going for us was Oceanside, which is the arena is actually owned by a good friend of mine, Phil Salvaggio, who owns the team there as well. He built this venue with ice capabilities, and no one knew that there was ice capabilities in there. So when you're looking at a brand new arena that's got the access to build ice, and then you start looking at, hey, what other markets might work in the state? And you see you've got an arena that people have tried to get into Fresno for the last 13 or 14 years to bring any level of hockey to it. And we had a new great venue partner with VenueWorks that recently came in back in February. And that was kind of what moved the needle, was having a proper arena partner that's really excited to grow the game from the ground up and form a true arena partnership.
Well, Parker, we are excited to come out, check out the venue, check out everything you have going on. Thanks so much for taking a few minutes with us, and congrats on your team.
Thank you. Go Falcons.
Thank you, Parker Muscal, the representative from the Fresno Falcons. So, Will, we've handled California, and, you know, he mentioned a few things, you know, other leagues trying to get into some of these markets. It's a big leap. I don't think anyone even inside Fed Brass would deny that. It's a big swing. It's not trying to, you know, work your way and take a little bit at a time. It's a big swing, but if it works out, Parker talked about the league wanting to be coast to coast. Well, a few years before the decade's out, and you've got Pacific and Atlantic Ocean covered right now.
Absolutely, and I'm excited to get out there and check out some Pacific Ocean Ocean hockey, especially in the middle of the winter.
I was going to say,
going from Michigan to Oceanside in the middle of the winter is going to be a lot of fun. We're going to enjoy it, but of course, many of the fans in the league will have to put their coffee pots on when their teams are out there in California.
Yeah,
now,
those late night games might be a little later. So
now let's bring it back within the current FPHL footprint.
So as you were mentioning, so we were talking about the going out west. Those veterans of the league remember the first big expansion down south. Remember, oh my gosh, went to Winston-Salem and then Columbus. Now the South is a big part of the FPHL. There have been some great hockey teams down there. We're in South Haven, Mississippi. One of the newest teams, the Mid-South Monarchs, are going to be an expansion team next season. And their coach, Mac Jansen, is joining us now. Mac, do you have us on your end?
I think I got you guys.
There you go, Mac. We hear you loud and clear. My first question, was it nice picking your friends for the first 3 rounds?
It sure makes things a little easier. Teammates, buddies, friends. Yeah.
Well, moving from playing to coaching, was that a decision that you had made, before the season ended, or was it after the season ended that you decided to go down and become a coach?
I kind of knew the time was coming. I didn't know that this opportunity was necessarily coming. It kind of all happened pretty fast, but yeah, I kind of knew the time was now for my playing career to be done, and I always knew I wanted to be a coach. So fortunate to be in the right place at the right time.
How much does it help? I joke about bringing your friends in, but obviously Tyson Kirkby has helped spearhead Binghamton to 3 championships, along with yourself, Cam Cervoni, Emerson Emery. With those first 3 guys, how much does it help to know what you're starting with in the foundation as a new coach today? Hey, I can go to Tyson and I know what he's going to lead the room like. How much does that put you ahead rather than just having to build relationships from scratch?
I don't want to say it puts us ahead of anything. I think it just helps the locker room and building a culture. We're going down there and we have to start from scratch on everything. And those guys kind of know my mentality of hockey and how I perceive the game, of sharing a locker room with them this year. Obviously you have ups and downs in the hockey season, but just knowing what culture we want to bring into that locker room. Obviously those guys I'm going to lean on to be leaders and to help relay the message that I want to send to the team. And yeah, it's just a cool thing, and can't wait to get started.
What kind of game does a Mac Jansen team play?
Hard, fast, passionate. Just hate to lose more than you love to win. We're gonna be gritty, fast, and we're gonna score goals. That's for sure.
After you took your 3 Binghamton teammates, you could no longer take any more Black Bears. So you get Chance Adrian, you get Damon Faruseth, Lucas Karchik, Benchich, and Panavanov. What was the mentality after that point? What were you looking for once you got to guys you didn't necessarily know from playing with?
Watching a little film, talking, Kirkby's been around the league a long time. Obviously, he was helping me through this whole process. And, it just came down to what we, big guys and, kind of something, just a little bit of everything. Something I played against, with the Benchich. We played against them a bunch with him in Watertown. And he was one of those guys that kind of performed against us in Watertown. And, just excited to see what some of these guys have with, doing a little research on what other people said about them. And yeah, just go from there.
What's the reception been like from the community that you guys are bringing hockey to that area and, bringing that team there?
So far, I mean, I'm not down there yet. I'm still in Binghamton, but from what I've heard, speaking with people that have been down there, obviously head coach of Binghamton Sherwood played there for a year, and a couple other, close connections played down there, and they said it's a passionate group. They had a pretty decent booster club, and, season tickets are selling from what Andreas has told me. So, it seems like they're hungry for hockey down there, and I definitely can't wait to get down there and just spread the word and, get the Monarchs out there and hopefully get a big crowd going and put a nice product on the ice.
You mentioned earlier that you weren't 100% sure that this opportunity was coming open. This wasn't part of the initial plan whenever you decided you knew your playing career was getting to its tail end. What was that process like of going, okay, I'm going to hang up the skates, but now I get to start a whole new team and I get to build something from scratch down in South Haven?
Obviously I was talking with Andreas a little about the year, and he kind of asked me what I wanted to do. And, nothing was really talked about during the season of me becoming the coach down there. Like I said, it all happened really fast. And it just kind of was like, it came to me one night. I was laying in bed, and, there was kind of like side talks of it, kind of like talking it into reality. And then one day I just called Andreas and, kind of gave him my little pitch of what I thought and what I'll do and what I'll try and bring to the team as a head coach. And, it's kind of builds my confidence that he was on board right away. He has all the confidence in me to, bring my hockey energy and what I have to do as a coach to, try and make a successful team on the ice.
You've been around the Fed for a while. You've seen where it's come from, and are now moving up into the head coach role are going to be a part of where it's going. Where do you want this league to be in the next, 2 years, in the next 5 years? Where do you see this going with the growth the league's had over the last few seasons?
I just want to see, butts and seats. I'm sure every owner, every GM, everyone wants to see that. But there's nothing cool or more fun going on the ice when there's a packed crowd, or going on the road and you're getting booed, or the opposing arena hates you. Like, as a player, that's honestly fun to play in front of. I can say that firsthand. I've played in front of some of the most hostile barns in the minors, and it's just a cool thing to have. And, to almost have the respect of a league that, we're going and playing in these arenas. It's just a cool thing to see. And I hope that this league, the past couple of years has grown. It is clearly continuing to grow, and I hope it just keeps doing so.
One last thing, because you mentioned it. No, Binghamton getting booed, that shocks me. But what were some of the more hostile places you had to go to? And did it grow over the last 3 years as you guys kept stacking up titles?
Well, I was only in Binghamton this year. From what I'm seeing, not so much an arena, but holy buckets, does it suck going to Danbury. Those fans are just breathing down your neck the whole game, and they're letting you hear it the whole game. They're right on top of you. We did go down to PD for playoffs. I know they're going through their whole league switch and everything, but wow, was that atmosphere insane. A couple other places. Topeka honestly wasn't bad with the buckets behind the bench. Like, you can't hear a word Sherwood was saying. So there's just some cool atmospheres, and honestly, a decent amount of people in these stadiums, and it's just cool to see. Definitely fun to play in front of, and even better to play for.
Oh, Mac, thank you for joining us, and good luck this season, and we're excited for your team.
Thanks, guys.
Well, Mac, thank you again for Mid-South. Again, some Black Bears going down there. Now, the schedule hasn't been released. We'll talk about that after our final interview, but whoever puts the schedule together, and I'm looking at every league representative watching this, there's got to be at least one Binghamton Mid-South weekend in Binghamton.
And there has to be a Port Huron weekend in California, because I want to go to California.
Of course you do, Will. But no, I'm saying right now, there's got to be a Mid-South game back in Binghamton. That one's an easy decision. All right, we've talked to 4 of the 5 expansion teams. Let's talk to the final one. Let's bring on our representative from the Minnesota Northern Lights, Aaron Arrett. Aaron, do you have us? Oh, Aaron, we've got the video. You have us now?
Yes, sir.
Aaron, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. We'll get right into it. We started everyone off with the expansion draft and what it's been like. First overall pick, you take Brandon Reller. What went into that decision, knowing that you had 1-1 in this draft?
I wanted a guy that wanted to play for us. A hometown guy, a big body, can put the puck in the net, a grinder.
You had a few Minnesota natives in this draft. Was that something you were looking for, trying to find those guys who wanted to play back closer at home?
Absolutely. That plays a huge part. And you guys touched on that. Not everybody wants to come to Minnesota. It gets cold. Gets cold up here. And he was excited when I talked to him on the phone before. He was excited, and that's the type of people we want.
So let's go through the rest of it. I mean, second go, you go with a goalie and Chris Kerr, then Jordan Rosenbaum from Blue Ridge, Matt Lenz, another goalie. So obviously, goaltender important early on. You got a big forward initially, but then you went all back end. Is that something again, a theme we've had tonight, build from the net out?
Absolutely a big part of it. Goaltender is one of the biggest parts of the team, and if we get a few of them to come in and try and win that position. Another one of them guys was a Minnesota boy in Huber, so that played a part in that as well.
Now, you guys were probably, I think, you're the first team out of these 5 to announce that you're coming into the league. What's the reception been like? And you had those neutral site games. What was the reception like for those neutral site games this season?
Yeah, it's people love it, man. The players and the coaches, and they're going to be heroes around here in this smaller market team with a beautiful rink. The towns and surrounding towns are going to love it.
So you mentioned it being a smaller market. Thief River Falls, Minnesota, for those that don't know, north of Fargo. It's pretty up there in northwest Minnesota. But you did also mention, they haven't really had this before. It's not like some of the other teams or cities that have had teams in the past. What is the reception going to be like? And what does it mean for the community in northwest Minnesota to have a pro team they can call their own?
It's absolutely amazing. It's going to help the town grow, and it's not just Thief River, it's Warroad and Roseau and East Grand Forks and Bemidji and Hallock and all these smaller towns around within 20, 30, 40 miles. People are going to have and local players, local hockey players that sometimes get overlooked. They're not going to be overlooked anymore.
I'm going to say, well, Minnesota, one of the hockey craziest states in the union. So there's already the appetite. Obviously, the high school hockey so famous for the passion they have. What are you looking for people to know about the Northern Lights? And what's the message you want to get across to potential fans out in Minnesota?
Yeah, I think we're going to catch some teams off guard and surprise some people. There's going to be a lot of kids, and we're close. I mean, we could skip a rock to Canada. So we're going to pull a lot of talent out of Canada. We're going to pull a lot of talent out of North Dakota and Wisconsin, and I think we'll surprise some people.
Obviously, unique team name, very unique team colors. What went into all that, and why the Northern Lights?
It's kind of part of our culture up here. It's beautiful in the winter. It's cold, but it's beautiful and it's fun. And ice fishing that was voted on by the fans. I mean, that we put a few options out there and the fans voted and picked that, and we went with it.
Well, I'm going to apologize now and then also apologize in advance. I know I called you the North Stars at least one time, and I know I'll probably do it again. So I apologize for that. But no, the Northern Lights branding, I think, is very unique, and I think it's something that definitely catches the eye. We saw the Moose logo all night long. I have to imagine that's something that also can be a hook that can get people to really notice you as well.
100%. And you never have to apologize for calling us the North Stars. That's legendary around here.
Well, hopefully the Northern Lights can build up a reputation so that is what they think of when they think of Minnesota hockey up there. Aaron, I really appreciate it. I look forward to making the trip up to Thief River Falls and getting to meet you in person. But thank you so much for joining us, and good luck the rest of the way until the season.
Hey, yeah. Thank you guys very much.
Thank you, Aaron. Again, our representative from the Minnesota Northern Lights. As I get that right one final time now, I'm done talking about them. So with all that said, again, thank you to everyone, to Scott, to Craig, to Parker, to Aaron, to Mac, everyone for coming on. I think this has helped make the broadcast as good as it can be. Again, I apologize. I'm very fidgety. I know I was rubbing the mic a little bit before the Johnny interview. I apologize. That one's on me.
You used to have the handheld.
Yeah, I'm used to having the handheld.
On the PHP
yeah,
network.
so it's that one's on me. I'll take the minus, the MA on the grade sheet. But as we do that, I know people have been sticking around. They want to hear about the divisional format or the league format and the schedule. And while we don't have anything concrete, what we do have is a plan in place. And I talked about this at the beginning. And Will, you can attest to this. Talking to people in power in the league, one of the big things they want to do is have thoughtful processes and not just do something for the sake of doing it. So things like divisional formats. Hey, there have been ongoing talks and there have been several different ideas floated out there. Do you just stick to 2 divisions? Do you make it conferences with divisions within the conference? Because the schedule is going to be somewhat linked to the format. Now, I can tell you with 17 teams, the math isn't going to work out exactly, so you're not going to have a perfect matrix, but having a thought and a reason behind everything they do. Well, let's just start with league structure. You personally, I grant you grand poobah of the FPHL. What would you like to see in terms of league structure?
Well, I will be honest with you. I did spend some of my free time drawing it out, and then things changed a little bit.
Oh, yeah,
but
just for
I
doodling,
did draw it
right?
out in my notes a little bit. I had a bit of a 4-division structure in my thoughts. But yes, I think the most important thing to take away from all this is that there's a lot of thoughtfulness going into this, and there are different people who are making these decisions than in years past. The old guard is still a little bit involved in those decisions, but we do have a lot of different people as part of these new decisions, and that's part of making the league, the more legitimization of the league, more transparency, more thoughtfulness in everything that's done, from scheduling to the alignment to the playoff format. Everything is going to look different in the coming years in the FPHL. I do believe this summer will be looked back upon as, wow, this was the summer that the FPHL went from, its old reputation, which, it's been away from its old reputation for a long time, and people don't, and people still hold on to that old reputation. It really isn't that anymore. This is a very legitimate league. You have a lot of NCAA graduates, in the FPHL now. But this is the year I think that it gets out to the general public that this is the new FPHL.
Yeah, and you mentioned, some of the eras, and the league isn't going to hide from its past. It's just going to learn from that and build on it and be better. Listen, you go through the different eras. When it first started, hey, it was a league in its infancy. Half the teams were coming in and out. And then around the middle of the 2010s, you started getting pretty good consistency. You'd have a team or two drop out every year. And then at the turn of the decade, that's when I talked about the Southern expansion. You had some now cornerstone franchises with Carolina, with Columbus coming in that have been a part of it. Binghamton came in around that time. And then you started to see things that, probably should have always been there, but you started to take another step forward. Balanced schedules, everyone playing the same amount of games, more league announcements. And now this year has been the concerted effort, like you said, to find the way to take that next step. And no, it's not going to be done in one broadcast. It's not going to be done even in one season. I mentioned at the beginning of the year, but the powers to be are starting to look more than just the month ahead of them. They're saying, okay, how does this affect us in a year? How does this affect us in 5 years? And how can we do things to lay the groundwork now? And we love all the Fed fans out there. You are some of the craziest, most passionate fans, whether you're up in Danbury, you're down in Louisiana, Topeka, Winston-Salem, somewhere in between. We appreciate you, and I know you want answers, but looking at in the coming weeks, we're gonna have teams are gonna be submitting their final availabilities. There's some things you don't think about when it comes into making a schedule. Some teams in the league share the venue with, maybe it's a G League team, maybe it's another a sports league in general. I know down south, sometimes you have to deal with other non-sporting events. So that's something that is getting worked out as well, that they're finishing up. I would expect in the next few weeks to start to hear some announcements, divisional formats, whether it's divisions, whether it's conferences. You could go conferences of, 8 in one conference, 9 in the other. You could do that and then split those up into 4 and 4. So you have, an Empire and Continental division, but each have an East and a West. There's many different ways to slice it. And if there was an easy answer, we'd probably have it for you here tonight. But the fact is we don't. But I just want to reassure everyone at home that there is thought going into this, that it's not going to be something done quickly. We'd rather wait another couple weeks to a month to do it right than to get it out quickly and it not make sense or there be no thought behind it.
And it's a collaborative effort. The league leadership, the board of governors, team representatives, the schedule makers, everybody is working as one team, as a whole, to make sure this is the best for every team in the league and best for the league as a whole. So it's very exciting. And again, this right here tonight, the fact that we did this at all,
Yes.
the fact that this is the most this is one of the most transparent things the league has done in 16
Yes,
years. So,
absolutely.
and we were excited to bring it to you guys. Thank you to everybody who tuned in and enjoyed it. Again, another shout out to the watch party out in Fresno. I mean, how cool is
or
that?
if anyone else got together, hey, maybe you got together in your buddy's living room and you just had enjoyed a Tuesday night together. Who knows? Also, thank you to everyone behind the scenes. It was not just me and Will that put this on. I will tell you, there was weeks of planning. Christian Jackson, our director at Park Avenue Productions, did an excellent job. Andres, Kyle, Liz as part of his crew, Zach, who was on the call feeding us the information as it came through, Caitlin, who was our stage manager, and then everyone else around the league that was transparent with us. Sarge in the league office, allowing us to get the information we needed so we can bring it to you in the best way possible. Again, this is nowhere near the final product, and I hope we look back in a year's time at if there is next year's expansion draft and we say, wow, we were so much better than last year. I can't even watch it. Much like how you go back and watch any of our first broadcasts and you go, oh, we sucked. I hope next year that everyone involved in this goes, wow, we came such a long way, but you have to start with a step, and I think this was a big first step.
Well, we hope you all enjoyed it. We thank you so much for sticking up with us for about almost 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
About 2.5 hours at this point, from Motor City to the entire expansion draft, and everybody else here at the FPHL. We thank you so much for tuning in to the first ever thing put on the new FPHL YouTube channel, and stay subscribed to that because there will be a lot more to come this season and even in the coming days with our exclusive interview with one of the newest coaches in the FPHL yet to be announced.
Absolutely. And again, maybe we don't even know everything that's going to be on this page, but I'm going to tell you what, there's been discussions to use this as a league-wide platform to highlight every corner of the country of Fed hockey. So, Will, you have anything else before we send it home?
Well, I was going to say one last time before we become rivals again, after working together for a year. Brady Beaton, I'm Will Wiggleman. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll see you in October, back with our respective teams.
Good night.